Okay, let's get going. Hello there. Wait, is it 6? Did my computer not was there like a time change or something? Yeah, no, it is 7. I'm a bit late even. It's 7. It's 10 past 7. It should have turned on stream 10 minutes ago. Give me a couple of seconds. Closing this, closing this. Yeah. Opening this for later. Oh yeah, so if you live in Moscow, it is 6 for sure. Are you? Is my stream not monitored by the Kremlin? Are you not worried about watching me in Moscow? Except it's 8 in Moscow. Well, that is also true. So it would be 6 in the UK right now. Or Portugal. Give me a minute. So, why did it get so cold so quickly? Like 2 weeks ago, I still had my fan on. Space. If they were monitoring, I'd already be in prison. Hey, you might be the person from the Kremlin monitoring the stream. Like, you are actually working for them, as far as I know. Boom. There we go. Okay, finally, let's get started. Man, it's called Duck Duck, not Goose. I wish I was. They pay well. They need something. They pay when they need something from you. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, election news. How is everyone, first of all? I wanted to have a look at something to introduce the topic. Yeah. Yeah, so. Feeling parasocial like I'm stalking someone. Well, if you were working for the Kremlin, you could be paid for that. Lots of bad news coming out of politics these days. Yeah, I'm it's a lot. It's a lot to process for sure. Let me just just to introduce the topic, let's quickly look at this party, the party that won the Austrian elections. We'll look at the details later, but this is the biggest party, the Freedom Party of Austria. And I wanted to quickly look at the first 2 leaders of the party. So this guy and this guy, leader number 2. Who were they? Oh, there's not the fun photo of this guy. There you go. Yeah, first leader of the FPO. Man, the quality really sucks. And second leader of the FPO. Yeah, so of course, political party, Nazi party, and then Freedom Party of Austria. And second leader of the FPO, yeah, also Waffen-SS and Freedom Party of Austria. Just as a quick introduction, like that's where we're starting at. That's the starting point of the FPO is Nazi and then another Nazi. And they didn't really stray too far from that over the years. That hasn't really changed. Colorful characters, yeah, in black and white. So that's a great start. And you would think that would already be enough for them to basically forever be I want to say disqualified, but the funny thing is the first guy was asked by the Conservative Party chancellor to take over the party when it was founded. For some reason, because the Conservative Party didn't want this, the chancellor didn't want this new party that was being created to be too far left. So he tells a Nazi, "Hey, can you take over the party so we can not have any of those dirty socialists in power? You know, those socialist parties are annoying." And so instead, we have a Nazi party. We have a Nazi party that's been just, I don't know why more people don't talk about the FPO because honestly, they're kind of, so I did my whole video on the National Rally, which you can actually point to direct historical ties to the Nazis and to the fascists and to the collaboration with the Nazis in France. And then you have the AfD in Germany. And the AfD in Germany is much more recent. It was founded in, was it 2013? Yeah, 2013. So you can't really tie this party as closely to the Nazis, even though they still have neo-Nazis in the party. You can't actually go back through decades of history in the party and do like a one-to-one, like super straight line, like very short connection in the way that you can look at National Rally people and go like, oh yeah, the founders, they were in the Nazi party and then they founded the National Rally. The FPO is one of those, they founded, like the Nazis founded the party and then Nazis led the party for decades and there's still neo-Nazis in the party today. And I don't know why we don't talk about this party more often as like, yeah, there's literally a neo-Nazi party that's been, at the top of Austrian politics for a long time at this point. And they were already in government a few years ago. And then they had a major scandal where it turned out that like half the party was working for Russian intelligence. So they lost the next election and they're back. How the fuck are what the fuck happened for the party for it should already be disqualifying that they're neo-Nazis. And then we learn, oh, by the way, they're working for Russian intelligence. And people go, okay, I won't vote for them for like one election. But once it's, 4 years in the past, 5 years in the past, yeah, it's been long enough. They learned their lesson. We're going to vote for them again. I don't get it. I literally don't get it. Yeah, the Ibiza affair. So this guy, chairman of the FPO from 2005 in 2019, so 5 years ago. A video showing him apparently soliciting funds for the party from a purported Russian national. The Russian national was actually an undercover journalist. But yeah, they were basically confirming what they thought was a relationship between the party leadership and the Russian government. In the video, how do you pronounce this? Strache, I guess. Also suggests his intention to censor the Austrian media in a way that would favor the FPO, citing the media landscape of Hungary's Viktor Orban, of Viktor Orban's Hungary. I'm tired today, as you can tell. The footage led to the collapse of the coalition with the OVP in 2019, but it's only been 5 years, and they're back. What the fuck? Like, if anything, the ties to the Russian government already bad. The blatant, oh, by the way, we'll be dictators if we're in power, shouldn't be too surprising, but the fact that there's video of this and people still vote for them is what I don't get. People still vote for this. I don't know what the fuck. Also, Russia is funding democracy destabilizing parties such as FPO, FD, BSW. Exactly. I don't know specifically if there are if there's direct evidence for BSW, just because BSW is so recent. But yeah, I would not be surprised whatsoever. Let's look for election results. Austria election results. So Euronews, NBC News. Let's go with Euronews, I guess. Let me look at what's it called? Europe Elects as well. And someone already linked it. Is this Europe Elects? Oh, that's the one that's on Euronews, yeah, as well. Okay, Europe Elects, that's Serbia. Austria is here. Wait. So that's the seat. Okay, it is this. Okay, cool. This is what we want. And this is the percentage of the vote. So here we are. What we have is the Conservative Party. So this would be the German equivalent would be CDU, Conservative Party in the UK, Les Républicains in France. SPO would be the PS Party, like center-left, Green Party. And what is this? I'm guessing this is the neoliberal party. I mean, they're called neos, so that pretty much says it. Is it this? Yeah, it does seem to be the right one. English. Is a liberal political party in Austria, founded as the New Austria, and they merged with Liberal Forum and adopted its current name. Yeah, so neoliberal party is literally called neos. Yeah, exit polls have them at 29%. Remember, these are parliamentary elections, so it's a matter of, like, they're the biggest party over OVP, and that gives them 57 seats in parliament, OVP 52 seats, for a total of Austrian parliament. how many seats? 183. So that is what 92 would be a majority. Yeah, 92 would be a majority. So, yeah, any coalition with OVP, they don't need a third party, they don't need anything. They're already, what is it? 17 seats over the majority that they need. That's 109 minus 92. Yeah, 17 seats. So they have an entire neoliberal party's worth of a majority, of an extra bit of majority. Coalition. Do we really need the coalition calculator, Jam? Seriously, the coalition calculator is this party and that party are way more than a majority. So what's interesting is OVP, the Conservative Party, lost 19 seats. So I'm assuming OVP was in leadership until now, if my memory serves me correctly. It's just that it was apparently OVP and the Greens were the governing coalition. And now the OVP can go, oh yeah, we can ditch the Greens. The Nazis can come back into the government. The OVP already formed a coalition with FPO until 2019, until the Russia funding scandal / we are going to censor the media to favor our party scandal, and are Greens conservative in Austria? Good question. I don't know that much about them, but they barely even matter because they lost from 26 to 16. They lost 10 seats. Conservatives lost, what did we see, 19 seats earlier? Yeah, 19 seats. And FPO gained 26 seats. So basically what I would assume is FPO gained all of the lost conservative seats and all of the lost conservative votes and then some. It's your own fault if you enter a coalition with conservatives. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, fuck, it's the things are really bleak right now. I really don't even know how to process this, because it's just another one. If anything, this is maybe the worst. Well, I mean, the borderline fascist, the neo-fascist party in or post-fascist, I guess they would be technically, party in Italy has already been in power for a while. You of course have Austria, but like not Austria, Hungary, but Hungary like barely even counts as a democracy anymore. So we're not even talking about elections in Hungary at this point. This might be the most clear far-right victory in Europe in a while, in part because the far-right in France lost the legislative elections a few weeks ago, and Germany is still, I think they're still a few years behind. They're winning regionally, but I think it's going to take a few more election cycles before they actually start to win. Oh, Netherlands was pretty bad too. Netherlands is another big example. But yeah, no, this is bad. This is this is something that we're gonna have to deal with for years to come. Joining me. Wait, let me check something. So joining me to talk about it is someone who knows more about Austrian politics than I do, is a former guest on the stream, friend of the stream, Wrote. Let me set up the camera. Hello there. Okay, wait, let me
I was just
activate your
catching up on
sound.
your stream.
Hello there.
On, and wait, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this and full screen. There we go. I just slightly to the left. And there we are. So, fun stuff. Remind me what your connection... I know that you lived or at least like go to Austria on a regular basis. What's your connection to the country and your expertise on Austrian politics?
Yeah, for sure. So I was deep in kind of like social democratic Austrian politics for quite a while. With one of my comrades from Austria, from Vienna, Matthias Kranz, we formed an organization called Solidarität. This is solidarity in English. And we were trying to kind of push the SPÖ, so the Social Democrats, in a more left-wing position, but also to embrace kind of new media technologies, kind of like the cutting edge of kind of campaigning. And this was kind of in the years immediately after like 2016, 2017, so like the Sanders Corbyn stuff. So we were trying to like pull in a lot of like the best practice into what was happening in Austria, because at the time the SPÖ was basically in like a death spiral for quite a number of years, unfortunately. For a lot of reasons. Part of it is just kind of like the general neoliberal turn of the party. The other half is that because political parties in Austria are publicly funded, and this is a proportional based upon how well you do in the elections. When you start losing, and if you're not a very wealthy party with a lot of rich donors like the ÖVP, it starts mounting how bad it gets, because it's not taking money just out of your main party treasury. It's also money that is going directly into every smaller institution, so like the youth organizations and whatnot. And unlike other countries where these have all kind of been like done away with for the most part, these are super strong in Austria. Like the kind of old school style of political parties still functions there. So you have this deep, basically death spiral that happens once you start losing elections. Then you have less money, then it's harder to fight in the election, then you lose more money. And then that's been going on in the SPÖ since 2002. So you have to think about, you've got 22 years of a pretty rocky road that they've gone through.
And
anyway, sorry, that was like a bit of a tangent. I've
Yeah.
been thinking a lot about this and talking to SPÖ people the last couple of hours. It's
Is the government not aware of that kind of negative feedback loop? Do they not care? Is it like, well, it's good for the ruling party, so it doesn't matter? Or is anyone trying to address that?
Okay, so like, I have to bring you back to like how the Second Republic comes into existence.
This is just me, like this is just me reacting to like the thing you brought up. This isn't even the topic that you came on for. So yeah, if you can like just give me a quick primer on that, and then we'll actually get into the election today.
Okay, so basically the three main parties that exist now are the three main parties that also existed in the First Republic. So the Habsburg monarchy collapses, and in 1919, 1920, the First Republic is formed. There's a revolution. It happens. Workers rise up. They seize power. The leadership of the trade unions and the Social Democrats basically hash out a negotiated deal to create a democratic republic. With the kind of Christian Socials, which was a pre-existing party, and this is kind of like really reactionary. It was basically the party of the Catholic Church, and we have to understand the Catholic Church is a much more powerful political actor at this moment in time. And it basically was the seat of an ideology which was called clerical fascism, which is exactly what it sounds like. And it was even led by a cardinal at the time. So it's very like on the nose. Anyway, so at the moment, the Christian Socials were a bit scared. The German nationalists were really keen on the idea of forming a republic with Germany. So like they were down with the idea in a general sense. And the idea was that a German Austria, so like an Austrian republic, would not be functional as an independent state. So everyone kind of agreed that there would just be like a greater German republic, like Weimar and Austria would eventually fuse. And this was kind of just a given for quite a while in the First Republic. So there's a deal, and you are like, okay, you have the three main parties, and they've decided that they're going to split power. And they create a system that is designed to have the power split. And this system worked okay for a couple of years, and then the conservatives realized they had more power again. The emotional turbulence of the revolution had passed, and they started reclaiming their ability to control things with a lot of money and whatnot. And there's a ton of bad things going on, like mass starvation and things. So let's fast forward. Time goes on. They decide to overthrow the republic and basically create a civil war after forming into a fascist party called the Fatherland Front, the Christian Socials. And by then we have an Austrian Nazi party also. So the Austrian Nazi party is the forebearer of the FPÖ, like two parties before. These are all direct successor organizations. So
Yeah.
there's a direct continuity amongst all these parties as well.
Yeah, we were looking right before you came on. We were looking at the first two leaders of the FPO. So like very obviously, like, you know, Nazi as
A literal
Nazi as
minister,
Nazi can be, basically.
like a literal SS minister. Like it's
Yeah.
you can't. Yeah, it's wild, right?
Like,
And like I mean,
what
for me,
happened to the
really
idea of denazification and, oh, these people can't engage in politics after World War II and all of that? Was that just not at all a thing in Austria? Because I know that there was at least some kind of fig leaf of that happening in Germany.
this happens, but also like you have to understand what you and I understand what happened in denazification is very mythological. It's a myth version of what happened. It did not work. There's a reason it was stopped even in Germany. It's because all the Allied powers were just like, this isn't doing anything, and we're spending a lot of money. And everyone agreed, and everyone wrapped it up, like Soviets, French, British, Americans. And this was also a more complicated thing in Austria because of like how it ended up in the Cold War split as an independent neutral country. Uh, and in so like I think you have to understand the UVP, so the People's Party and the Social Democrats both took very stupid gambles regarding the far right. So right in 1947, the SPÖ said that a union of independents, an organization of independents, could also run. So this was a post-war Nazi party set up immediately in the first like democratic elections in Austria. And this is still during under military occupation. So you have to understand they had to get the military occupiers to agree to allow them to set up another far right party. And because the SPÖ leadership thought if there's two far right parties, then it'll split the vote and it'll be good for us in the election. And this just backfired, and it ended up with a few far right MPs and the People's Party basically doing quite well as well. So there was no benefit to it. They just allowed the establishment of an immediate post-war fascist party. And then you fast forward a little bit, this organization collapses because fascists hate each other, and there's a whole bunch of drama. And then you form the FPÖ, the first proper, like, serious successor party organization. Then they continue on until they're allowed, and they have kind of a liberal moment in the 80s. And they are very key in keeping together an SPÖ government under Kreisky. And Kreisky, just imagine him as like Kennedy and FDR and Willy Brandt all rolled into one. He's that guy in like the mythology of SPÖ world. And the FPÖ supported their government in a minority like supply agreement. So they weren't in coalition, but they were like keeping the government propped up. And then the next time they brought the FPÖ into government. So the SPÖ was the first party to allow the FPÖ to come into government. And this lasts for, I think, it's like 4 or 5 years. And then you have this liberal period basically ends, and they bring in their first like crazy far right character, Jörg Haider. And this guy was like the Trump character of the moment. He's like before Berlusconi, before all the characters. He is like, nah, man, we're gonna be hard right again. Fuck the liberalism. We're Nazis, and like that's our thing. And so he kept going up and up and up. And the last time they were doing this crazy well in the polls was back in his day. And we're just lucky that there was a party split during that time. He left and died in a car crash from being drunk. So, don't drink and drive if you're a fascist. It's not good for your lifespan.
Well, I would
then
say
we
if
end
you're a
up,
fascist, I would recommend that you do drink and drive.
yeah, I mean,
This
I
is
agree
this is
as
not legal advice. This is medical advice. If you're a fascist, that is the recommended treatment.
Yeah. So at this point, also you have like the starting the cycle of the UVP allowing the FPÖ to be in their governments, breaking the tradition of a grand coalition basically permanently between the SPÖ and the UVP, because the Second Republic was set up primarily to make it so that there wouldn't be another civil war. So everything in Austria is basically set up to not repeat the Civil War of 1927. And that is how you have to understand the lens of the country. Everything is split. Appointments are divvied out between the two major parties. Everything is has a parallel. So there will be a social democratic version and a Christian social version. And this is everywhere in the entire country. And it's a weird, confusing thing for anyone else who's not Austrian or doesn't have a similar setup in their country, but it's a bit bizarre. People talk about like in the US, like the Republicans and Democrats live in parallel worlds. Like they have not actually set up the actual state to be parallel, and that is actually what happened in Austria.
Whoa,
So
I'm
when you to go back
having a
to the
hard
original
time even.
question,
I'm having a hard time even wrapping my head around that.
yeah, I mean, like if you lived in Belgium, it would make a little more sense too
Oh
because
yeah,
it does a
fair
similar
enough.
thing.
Yeah, okay.
But
I'm slightly more familiar with the situation in Belgium, so I can see
Yeah, like you know
the
how there's
analogy
different
there.
insurance companies, and like imagine that, but like for everything, like
Hmm.
every aspect of the state. And it's very strange and odd and very kind of like it's like going back in time a little bit. Uh, but this also creates a problem because if you've designed your entire system to be split between two political parties, when you have a third one who becomes very, very powerful, then you start having major, major problems because they start getting appointments and they start holding power into all these things. And in the few times they've been able to get into government, especially recently, Kickle was in control of the Interior Ministry, and he basically hacked and slashed all the intelligence services and installed a bunch of like nutcases from the FBU and aligned with them. And that's how you end up with a bunch of spy scandals and like the Russian government getting like duplicates of the cell phones of like the chief of police for the country and all this other nonsense. I mean, there's been like it's hard to describe how many crazy scandals have happened the last like I don't know since 2017, 2019.
Oh, we'll
It's
get
even
into that.
difficult to remember how many chancellors there's been.
We'll get into that in a second. Yeah. Just before my next question, I just wanted to make two quick points of order. There's currently 30-ish people watching, but there's only 7 likes on the stream. So everyone who's watching right now, please like the stream. That's number one. Number two, if you have any questions for Rote, either ask in chat, but I'm not sure I'm gonna get to it if it's just ask in chat and the conversation moves on. So if you want to make sure that your question gets heard, you can send a donation through the Stream Elements link that is somewhere in the description, or through YouTube donation chats. Or if you're already a Patreon supporter, I will get to the questions in the Discord Patreon specific space there. So those are the two things. Now my question, actually this is a two-parter question. Number one is, last time you were on, you were talking about some of the good things that Austria has done in terms of, left-leaning thinking for like housing, for social programs and all of that. Help me understand how that can exist, like how Austria can be kind of an example of that, somewhat of a model of that, and at the same time, it's a country that is very primed to vote for a fascist party. And number two is, of course, there is a major scandal in 2019 that basically caused the FPO to collapse temporarily. How the hell are they back so quickly?
Okay, so how has it got so much cool stuff, but also is really fashy? Well, okay, so like the AfD is a new party, and they've been able to do very, very well in Germany, a country that's literally designs its states around this, memory culture kind of stuff. The FPU has had 4 times as long to do the same exact thing. Literally decades, like decades and decades. And this is like this is the only mission they have ever had is like we're gonna become first, we're gonna become the chancellors, we're gonna end the republic. Like that is the reason d'etre of their entire existence. So if you think from 1945, these guys have still not gotten over World War II. Like this is where we're at. Like these guys have spent since 1945 trying to become the leaders again. And this is it. So and also like it's not as like kind of crazy or sexy. It's just Austria is in the exact same situation as every other republic, right? And they also have the negative situation of being a smaller country within a quite large language group. that is also having its own fascist problem. So every piece of far right propaganda that's pumping out for Germany is also getting pulled into Austria, along with the English stuff. Austria has also been the center of, the foundation of a lot of the modern far right. The identitarian movement was birthed in Austria. So it's like you have some of like these like key figures being there. The ties between like the FPU, Vladimir Putin, and his political party, not just like on a state or like an individual level, but like all the way deep down because they have this, friendship association, borrow money and blah, blah, blah. Then you also have them working with like Orban and that kind of sphere. And then they're really tied in with Marine Le Pen's group and that whole thing be through their European ties. So, they're like at the center of a lot of benefit and a lot of money can go really, really far in a small country, right? So, and so it's like you have like decades of time to invest, you have decades of trial and error, and you're also tied into a massive right-wing international network. And then you have all this propaganda that is actually heavily beneficial, that most of it you don't even have to create yourself. And then you also have the added benefit of the main party just like being terrible at governing and just like comically corrupt. Like the ÖVP basically has no it doesn't have an ideological position. It's just like how do we enrich people that are friends with us and squeeze the Austrian state for all it's worth and stay in power forever. And they've been in power since 1987, I think, 1989, like 40 years or something. Um, so it's just like imagine that kind of like Tory collapse, but over a much longer time period with a much more built up piece of angst. So we're watching a very similar dynamic, but just over a longer time frame. And I would say that the longer time frame is because of that the state being so built up. Right. I used to describe this to like my SPU friends, and I was like, the thing is, Austria starts like really, really high. So it can drop like huge amounts before people really get what's going on or like how bad things are getting. And eventually, years and years, decades of kind of like OVP austerity politics and neoliberalism, it's like now people are feeling it. And like one very key example for on like social housing. So around 2006, basically social housing ground to a halt in Vienna for one specific Landa and across most of Austria because of EU rules about state aid and people not being sure about whether or not they could have non-market housing. Because like these early Wild Wests of the EU, it's like no one was really sure. And eventually there was a memorandum and the mayor of Vienna was told like it was fine. But there was like a 4-year period where, 14,000 homes to 20,000 homes each of those years were not built. And those homes were never built. So 80,000 households didn't ever exist, which means like a pressure started building up over time. And even though you don't notice the lack because it didn't kind of, it wasn't meant to exist yet, at some point you realize we're missing 80,000 homes. And then, so like that's one area of pressure. And then it's like, okay, well, you have the increase of inflation, which was not dealt with in any way in Austria. They had the worst inflation in Europe. So prices just like skyrocketed, wages stagnated. And not only that, they've been trying to steadily push back on labor laws. For example, in 2021, I want to say, but I could be really wrong on that date. They basically installed like a 48-hour work week. So like you didn't get overtime pay until then. Even though you still had like a 40-hour or like a 38.5-hour work week, you didn't get overtime to kick in until you hit that higher mark. And then there was another like stupid thing they did with it. So all of these things have been just basically being battered away again and again and again. So it's like there's discontent with the main party. You had the SPU go through this like neoliberal Blairite period, and that's the last time they were in government, basically, that people remember. So they've been hit by this kind of just like, they don't do anything. They're just like a failure party, kind of like in the same doldrums as like the SPD. But I would say like the SPU has like a higher basement than the SPD does. Like they still have like highly institutional things, and which each are going to vote for them regardless. Uh, but they basically don't have the same reputation or legitimacy as they would have had back in the day because they used to be able to get majorities by themselves at the beginning of the Second Republic. Like they've gone from being able to pull in 50-40% down to now in like the 20s, and that's not good. And that's there's many reasons, but it's mainly they had a big neoliberal turn.
Yep. I was about to say it probably says a lot about the SPO that despite the OEP's corruption and despite the the obvious explicit fascistic leanings of the FPO, the SPO is not able to get better results in the elections.
Yeah,
does the what you were talking about earlier about the like the 50-50 split between the like the all of the institutions being doubled up between the left leaning and the right leaning versions of them? How much of an impact does that have in kind of the ceiling that the SPO is currently dealing with?
I mean, like the thing is, I would say like the SPU, like most parties, they withdrew on a lot of what their institutions used to be. So like, and I think we can apply this to a lot of political parties, but in the SPU, it's particularly bad because the institutions were the backbone of the party. So as unions became more weak, and lots, I mean, also there's another big issue, but I'll just get that to that in a moment. So you have like weakening institutions, so you have like less membership in each of your like individual party structures, and then you also have the UVP running their own over inverse kind of structure. So like they have their own trade unions, have their own farmers organizations. And I would say like the main area that the SPU failed on, if I had to go back in time and I was the leader of the SPU, they stopped investing into kind of what were can basically be called like peasant farmer organizations. Because they effectively were like, look, we're never getting these voters from the UVP. Why? Let's just maximize where we're at with like students in the cities and like other trade union stuff. I think the by not contesting all of these spaces at the same level, or not contesting them, period, you end up losing out spaces. And then when the FPU started coming in to contest some of these spaces against like the UVP or completely unopposed, then that becomes even more problematic because your institutional lack becomes their institutional gain. And because the society is already set up to understand these like social variants, so like community organizations and whatnot, it's very easy for them to kind of slide in and create like a duplicate fascist version of that. And that's I think it's very much easier for them to do this in Austria because the society's primed to organize in this way, as opposed to trying to kind of do this also like I don't know, maybe in an English speaking country it would be more difficult.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, when you were talking about like the fact that the SPO didn't contest some spaces and kind of lost those voters forever, I'm thinking of like Democrats in the U.S. basically. That kind of
Yeah,
dynamic
yeah.
of
I
like
mean,
there's a
it's a
huge
very
chunk of the
similar
U.S.
thing.
that is red, that is going to stay red, and that is never going to vote for a Democrat ever again in our lifetime, probably. And then the MAGA movement comes in and basically co-ops the entire the entire Republican Party, and you have what we have today, basically. So yeah,
Yeah,
we mentioned the Ibiza scandal in 2019. Before you came on, I was quickly going over it. How the FPO former leader was caught on camera, basically soliciting funding from someone he thought was a Russian government representative, and also talking about how he was going to undermine like the how he's going to censor the media and undermine a bunch of institutions to favor their party. How the hell does a party come back from something like that in just 5 years?
well, I mean, Straka is not in the party anymore, which I think is quite a big deal. So he got excommunicated, and there was a bit of a party split there. He tried to make his own party for a moment, so I think that was big. Yeah, I think the pandemic, man, that's all it was. Kickle was really good at organizing the anti-vax movement and going out there every single weekend while it was actually illegal for most political parties to be out and about.
Yeah,
He was
wasn't
organizing in the streets.
was in Germany there was the Querdenken movement. Was that originally from Austria, or is that a different thing?
I have no earthly idea. I all I know is like they were, I would say the first week of lockdown in Vienna, there were already people doing marches in the streets. And so I don't, I'm not really sure who kicked it off, but the FPU was out there almost immediately on these things. And they had big numbers. We're talking like 100,000 people, 120,000 people. And this was like weekend after weekend after weekend for more than a year. So it's like Kickle had a huge amount of time to like give himself this I don't want to use the word populist, but this kind of like people's hero character about him. And I think that helped really well, especially while you had like the UVP running the government and kind of being highly incompetent and corruption scandals rolling all the time. So like the Ibiza scandal is a big deal, but at the same time, it gets relativized once there's a million other scandals happening. Kind of like in the Trump years. It's like if there's a scandal every day, it's hard to keep up.
Wait, what am I doing? Sorry, open a window on top of your face. So I had a question earlier, which let me scroll up to it because I thought it was exactly the thing that everyone is worrying about right now, which is where was it? Okay, so Twilight's Fave Quill. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not informed about the integrity of the OVP, but if the FPO was already in government, wait, no, that's not the right one. Okay, I can't find the question that I have, but essentially it was how resilient are Austria's institutions and how much are they in danger from an FPO government?
I mean, I I think this question's always a bit of a problem because by nature, fascists do not care about following the rule of law, and they're willing to do illegal things until they're eventually stopped by the courts or something dramatic happens. Um, so I think any scenario where Kickle is in control of the state, or even aspects of the state again, is very, very dangerous. I mean, literally they had to rebuild the constitutional like defensive organization because Kickle broke it so hard and had actual spies inside of it. So like right now there's like a weaker version of one of the main institutions to protect the constitution, and yeah, things are not so good. I mean the yeah, I mean that's the big deal. There was also going to be elections next year for the president, and that could also go the FPU's way very, very well.
How much power
With
does the
those two
president have
positions.
in Austria?
They get to approve the cabinet, and if they don't approve the cabinet, then there goes into a caretaker government. So it
Okay.
only has a few minor powers, but like that one's real big. Like that one's a pretty important one because that means they could appoint basically any kind of wacky government they wanted. The tradition is still in Austria that there's some level of power sharing, right? So if he decided he's like, okay, we have the presidency, I want everyone to be from the FPU and I want them to be my most radical members, then he can just do that. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is the problem. It's like even if they're very, very small positions, they have sometimes dramatic ability, as we've seen with like January 6th or other such
Hmm.
things that should be mundane and procedural, and then they become very, very dangerous to the survival of republics.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
it's
I
the same
mean,
thing as when the US when everyone is in the US was jerking off the checks and balances that the government supposedly had, and then we came this close to literally Trump being able to doing a self coup and staying in power when he shouldn't have. Um
yeah. I mean, no fascist has ever been like, oh no, I lost the court battle. I guess I'll
mhm.
just give up power. Now I have the military. It's come on, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, basically, that is kind of what Trump did after everything when he literally didn't have a choice. I don't know. There were like rumors of him considering getting the military involved, but the military basically shut him down, and that's why he didn't even try that. But yeah, no, it's definitely bad. From what I understand, coalition talks have already started with OVP. And at the moment, what they're saying is that it's going to be an FPO VP coalition, but that the FPO will not be the prime minister in that case, or the chancellor in the case of Austria. So,
Yeah, I think a lot depends on what happens in the next 2 hours because if there's a good chance of being able to actually form a grand coalition, I think that might be the move for the OVP. But I mean, I don't know. I've been talking to a lot of people and they think it's just going to be an FPO government. And I think even if Kickle's not the chancellor, it's actually it might be worse because then he'll still be the power behind the throne, but without any of the checks and balances to actually legalistically control him. And that's a bit worse of a situation, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I
If
guess
he
it
can
would
break the
be
government at any point in time, he is the majority.
exactly at the point where the coalition is literally, well, it's only two parties, and one of those parties is bigger than the other, even if they don't have the chancellor position. It would be like it's kind of reminding me of how in Poland, when peace was when law and justice was in power, no one cared about who the president was. No one cared about who the prime minister was. It was always Kaczynski, the leader of the party, that
Yep.
was the guy who was really pulling the strings in a way that was very. It wasn't even an open secret. It's like everyone was like, oh yeah, he's the leader of the country. Like the Andrzej Duda, the president of Poland, his nickname is the Pen because he just signed everything that the party gave him to sign. So yeah, I guess it wouldn't really make that big of a difference if it's like, oh, but don't worry, the fascists aren't in power. They're not the prime, like they don't have the prime minister seats. Yeah, but they kind of do, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if they have all the yeah, I mean they have all the power in that relationship. I mean, the other conversation I hear being pushed around is that basically like the Greens, the Neos, and the SPU push the UVP into forcing a grand coalition or some sort of bigger coalition. I don't know if that'll actually happen. They don't have that much sway because it's just like they don't have the seats. But it's really just whatever the UVP wants to do. And I think the thing that people have to remember is the UVP is not the CDU. They are a very right wing party.
Hmm.
It's not just like your mom and dad's center right party.
Yeah, there's actually a question
They
in chat about that. Ricardo is asking how right wing is the current OVP leadership. Like, I would just like to point out that the OVP is the party that initially, when the FPO was founded, had the Nazis take over the party when it was originally founded. The first leader was someone who the OVP chancellor at the time asked him to take over the party, and they were in a coalition with the FPO until 5 years ago. So they're very familiar with working with the FPO. If you want to add anything else to like how far right, how right wing they are compared to the CDU, yeah, go ahead.
they're comically far right. They're like crazy far right. Um, yeah, like again, we have to just look back to the history. Austria has two fascist movements. The domestic one is the forebearer of the UVP. They were the Fatherland Front. They did their own Austrofascism thing. So it's like you have two parties that are successors of two competing fascist movements, and that's what we're looking at. We're just looking at the slightly more democratic versions of these parties. Um, yeah, it's a mess. It's not good, and I think it's very, very, very dangerous because it gives another party control, another far right party control of a member state of the European Union. This will shift everything further right, and this is very, very dangerous. And this isn't like these people are like ideologically neo-Nazis. Like it's not like I think people really need to reckon with that. They've elected a neo-Nazi party to the first position in Austria. It's not good. It's very, very bad. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably the worst election outcome of the year so far, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying when I started the live. It's like, well, we can point to PVV winning in the Netherlands. We can point to Hungary having been like extremely far right for a while under Orban. We can point to Italy under Meloni, but this is maybe the most explicit neo-Nazi victory in a while, I would say.
Did you mention
FP.
the story that broke over the weekend with the funeral?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the lead candidates for the FPU, so like two of the number one and number two in Vienna, and the guy who was actually the second person in the Ibiza scandal video were at a funeral amongst a bunch of other FPU people because this member of a German national fraternity and just imagine an American frat, but for Nazis. He died, and they were singing SS loyalty songs 2 days before the election. That's where they're at. They're
As one
they're
does,
like, yeah, we're first in the polls. We can sing Nazi songs now. All good.
Yeah, that's I mean it's basically what I've been saying about a lot of it was the conclusion of my video on the national rally is we are at the points where all the things that they denied about being, oh, we're not a Nazi party. What are you talking about? The Nazis don't exist anymore. All of those things, we denounce them, we disavow them. and we're at the point now in history where they are going to start to turn around and rehabilitate all of those things that they were disavowing for a long time. So Jean-Marie Le Pen, who was excommunicated from the National Rally, now there's a significant portion of the National Rally supporters and voters and even members who are starting to go, we owe this man an apology, or we this man was right too early, or right before everyone else was, and they're starting to do the same thing with neo-Nazis in Germany, or just like talking about Nazi ideology in Germany. It's literally, there is a global movement right now to rehabilitate Nazi ideas in a way that is really hard not to see. Like, I don't understand people who still, I've gotten to the point where when people tell me you're being hyperbolic, there aren't any real Nazi parties anymore. I used to assume that they were just in a bubble, or they were in denial, or I used to assume good faith, and now I just have accepted that either these people are incredibly uninformed, but they're even if they're a little bit politically engaged, they are trolls. They're the comment that, to me, that kind of burst my bubble on this, was someone who was talking about the character Stormfront from The Boys,
The boys.
and saying, "Oh, Stormfront isn't a Nazi. She's like center right at most." And that's the comment that I saw on TikTok that made me go, "Oh, that's what they're doing. Okay, I get it now. It took me so long to realize that it was just trolling. It wasn't an actual, like, they weren't actually wondering about that. It's just they're taking the piss, basically."
Yeah, I mean, I think in the year of our Lord 2024, you can't take it any other way, because you have to, because either you must normalize those politics to think they're so okay, and that's it. That, like, you at that point you're like, okay, well, if you think this is like within any sort of normal person's Overton window, sorry, not sorry, you're a Nazi.
Yeah. Yako is asking, isn't FPO kind of libertarian leaning, at least aesthetically? I mean, their name is the Freedom Party, so I guess that makes sense.
No, I like they're just like honestly they're more of a party for like hyper rich people than even the OVP, which is a bit comical. It's just like their hyper rich people are also Nazis. Um, I mean, if you read their manifesto, there's nothing that's like freedom. They pitch themselves as like libertarian around like vaccines. Like that's because that's been a big issue, like issue that they've been able to get a bunch of vote turnout on. They've even, oh man, it's even crazy. Like, they've managed to create a victims of the coronavirus vaccine fund in Austria. They managed to pressure the government to actually create this fund for this non-existent problem that they've created through the conspiracy theory movement. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy shit. It's crazy shit. I mean, this is also the kind of the general fascist theory, right? It's like you don't have to even be in government as long as you get the policies through pushing them. It's the perfect, like, Gramscian approach to winning politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were mentioning the anti-vax aspect. I'm kind of amazed at how many voters the far right has managed to win by doing this whole anti-vax thing. I don't even know if they themselves really believe it, or if they're playing it up because they realize that it's working to recruit a new subset of voters. Because I've been noticing this huge pipeline of the hippie to fascist pipeline, basically, that is almost happening exclusively through the anti-vax movement. That and like related conspiracy theories, and that's so. It sounds like it shouldn't work. Like, it sounds like those are fundamentally incompatible ideologies, and yet it has been maybe one of the biggest sorts of new voters for the far right in recent years.
I would honestly like probably spin it the other way. I would say like this kind of like woo holistic healing movement thing, esotericism was always deeply tied into kind of post-war far right views. If you look at people like Savitra Gupta, a Greek lady who went to India who was a big fan of Adolf Hitler and Hinduism. She's one of the main figures who created a lot of like the post-war like Nazi mysticism. A lot of that was kind of like whittled down into kind of new age philosophies. And yeah, a lot of it has backgrounds in like the far, far, far right. And even though we have a more kind of like commercialized, bland version of it in a lot of respects, it's easy to fall back into like the really dangerous parts of it.
Hmm.
Because it's all about like secret knowledge and a lot of like ancient alien shit, which is like
Oh
super
yeah,
fucking close
yeah.
to like Aryan Nordicism.
The holy shit, the kind of esoteric, you know, looking into Atlantis, looking into all of those. Like there's a very very deep network of rabbit holes to go down if you're interested in some of the crazier shit that makes Hydra from the MCU look tame in comparison. When you look at what the actual Nazis believed in and what they were like it's basically Indiana Jones is not a joke. Like like they actually believed all that shit. All of the stuff that they're doing in Indiana Jones, that they were actually trying to do that basically, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. That the thing that everyone thinks is like this cartoonish version of it, no, that was basically it. That was not an exaggeration.
I mean, I think like we kind of chatted about this last time. It's this idea where it's romanticism at the end of the day. It's like they believe in kind of like this very yeah, easy like Marvel-esque way that history and time and reality works. And it's all a heroic struggle. You can even see this in kind of like the OG Nazis and loving like opera and this idea of like this kind of Wagnerian way to present uh German history or future. And it's very into pomp and the show business of it all. I mean, that's a big part of the appeal of fascism, I would say. It's like it gives you a crazy fantasy to build into, and that's why conspiracy theories are like part and parcel to it. It's a build your own adventure that you get to be a hero in, and you're a main character. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but that's how it is.
Hmm. Twilight mentions that he was a victim of one of these sects a couple of years ago. Twilight, if you're not already in Discord, can you join the Discord and DM me there? Because I'm interested in hearing your story one of these days. If you're open to sharing, even if it's just to me off the record. You mentioned a few times the Russian angle of all of this. It seems like Russia has a bigger influence in Austria than like Russia is definitely trying to influence politics in a bunch of other countries. Like the National Rally has Russian ties, the AfD has Russian ties. I think BSW also does, but there seems to be a lot more of these scandals in Austria, considering how small the country is. Why do you think that is?
Okay, so there's two main reasons. One is Austria, because of its neutral status in the Cold War, also became the center for a ton of international organizations. So one of the headquarters of the UN is there, OPEC is headquartered there, like all sorts of shit. Two, it's legal to spy in Austria as long as you're not spying on the Austrian government. It's totally kosher. So you have the highest per capita spies in Vienna of anywhere in the world. So
Cool.
that's why. There's a
What
lot
what
of spies, dude.
what the fuck do you mean it's legal to spy in Austria?
The Habsburgs thought it's super cool to spy on other countries as long as you're not spying on them. Like it's Gucci, it's fine.
Okay, that
That's
sounds
it.
nuts.
Austria, bro. It's a crazy country. It's a crazy place. I love it, but it's a wild place.
Okay. Um, we were mentioning back to the visa scandal, like the statement that they wanted to start to censor the media, start to do a lot of other things. What should we keep an eye out for if they start to move in that direction? What would be the early signs of that happening, basically?
I'm sorry, I have to bring up this thing in the chat because it's very funny. Someone said it's the same in Bulgaria, but they have regulated it to having a license. Brilliant. Thank you. You're living in the 22nd century, my friend. Wow. Cool. Crazy. Okay, anyway, so what was your question again?
Yeah. So in the Ibiza scandal, in the Ibiza tape, the FPO leader was talking about how he wanted to start censoring the media or regulating the media to favor the FPO and doing similar things with other institutions. what do we need to keep an eye out for if they start to move in that direction? And yeah, what are the early red flags that would be for that?
So I would say the early red flag already happened a couple of days ago, or maybe like 3 days ago. So a story broke that the People's Party Parliamentary Club had a piece of draft legislation to make it illegal for investigatory reporters to report on information that is not publicly available yet, which means they would not be able to report on WhatsApp chats or leaked conversations or interviews with people unless it
Mm,
would already part of the public record, and this would hold jail time for in not just the journalist who was doing the writing, but also for the person they were getting the information from. Not only that, it would move the responsibility of legal action from the publisher to the individual journalist.
mm.
So this is like obviously really fucking crazy.
So
But
wait,
this is something the People's Party want to do.
who did
So we
that?
don't
Is
even
that
have to,
did the OVP do that?
yeah.
Because that's a completely nuts thing to pass.
You know, it's really crazy unless you're part of the OVP whose last couple of governments collapsed because someone did investigatory reporting against you.
Hmm.
So if you plan on doing future corruption, you might want to make it illegal for someone to report on your corruption.
I mean, didn't similar things happen to the journalist who broke the Ibiza affair?
Yes, yes, exactly that.
Yeah. Do you have the
It would have
details
been
of?
illegal for the Ibiza affair to come out if this law had existed.
Yeah. Do you have the details of how they went after the journalist who broke the Ibiza affair on hand right now?
I do not, unfortunately, and this was quite a while ago, so I'm not sure I could give an accurate response on this. I'm sorry.
Okay, because I know that they face legal consequences for just breaking a story, but I don't remember what the details were of actually. Like it feels like the journalist had more of a consequence than the
I
politicians who were
believe
roped up into it.
I believe it was something around like consent on the videotape
Yeah, I
because
think
it
that
was
was
like
it.
an Austrian, yeah, I believe that was like the thing they caught them on because this is also a matter of the current like Nazi singing thing because they didn't get permission to record the people singing the SS song in public.
Mhm.
Because in Austria, it's more important to get permission for recording someone than for someone to be singing a Nazi song. That's the morality at play. Um, yeah, I mean it's crazy. So like that's where the UVP is at. So like the FPU is taking a much more extreme position even than that, where they basically want to strip out all of the public funding for news agencies. So in very much the same way that there's still like a lot of state institutional support for political parties, there's also state institutional support for the media. So Austria has a ton of papers and they still exist and whatnot. It's not all just consolidated yet. So this would basically strip out most of the funding, and this would also allow for them to establish a basically like a newspaper commissar to determine whether or not media is being politically biased or not. And this would be obviously headed up by someone by Kickle, and then he would determine what is the news and what isn't the news. So it's our little like Ministry of Truth, but instead of them banning people, they just arrest the journalists. And yeah, that's also sucks. I mean, the really crazy like FU policy is they want to make it so that children at the age of 12 are charged as adults criminally.
Okay,
Like this is some like Imperial Japan level shit. Like it's wild.
I'm trying to process everything that you're saying, and I've gotten to the point where the only thing that I'm asking myself is, what's the glass half full version of this? Like the because every single thing you're saying, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm thinking, okay, what are the stopgaps? Like, what are the things that can happen to prevent Austria from getting even worse than Hungary in the next few years?
Well, in a perfect world, the UVP decides to form a coalition with the SPU. Um, then
Yeah,
there's a
but that's not gonna
5 year.
happen. That's not even worth like theorizing about.
Dude, anything can fucking happen in Austrian politics. I've said that a few times in Austrian politics, and stupid stuff has happened. So I don't know. Anyway, in a perfect world, a grand coalition happens, and the vote share basically stays where it's at right now, where they have like a 1 or 2 seat majority. That gives them 5 years. All the other parties 5 years. It gives you time, and I think that's the best thing they can hope for at the moment, because this fascist movement in Austria isn't going to get spun down with anything other than a lot of time and a lot of effort put into kind of moving voters away from being fucking Nazis, and that'll take time. Basically, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe it's also important to like mention that like the SPU itself, like the Social Democrats, have changed leadership within the last year. So like they actually have like their first left wing leader in the first time in ever, and but the problem was it's like you can't really kind of turn around a sinking ship in like 11 months after it's been kind of spiraling out of control for a while. So it's like who knows, it's all a bit of a up in the air. So like we don't know if like Andy Bobla is going to be there in a few months. If he is, how that's going to go. I hope he is, because I think he's actually a really strong candidate, and it shows because like he didn't lose a vote, which is how what they've been doing for like years and years and years. They might even end up one seat up, which is like not terrible. I mean, I'm just trying to find like some silver lining in a very shitty situation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Um, and I mean, like, I was actually surprised how well the Neos did. So that was actually quite impressive. Not that that's my politics, but at least it's a non-fascist party. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of good things to think about. It's just what
Greens lost a lot of
he
their
does.
voters, it seems. I'm assuming that the Greens lost basically everyone who wasn't happy that they ended up in a coalition with the OVP.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the coalition really hurt them. They were really riding high the last time, mainly because like there wasn't anything to compare against. So it was very like morally clean to vote for the Greens at that point. Then after like years of being stuck in this like nightmare coalition with an incredibly corrupt partner that they also had to investigate because they had the Justice Ministry. So half the coalition was the coalition investigating itself. Yeah, it was a disaster for them, like really bad. They didn't get anything out of it really.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
well,
I mean
one
it's
big
the
thing,
same with
one big thing.
sorry, what?
Oh, they got one big thing. They
Yeah.
were able to be the deciding vote on the EU Nature Restoration Act, which will be a major thing. But other than that, not much. They just hemorrhage vote.
Hmm. It's the same with like leftist parties, or like, center left parties seem to have a hard time to understand this, because the same thing happened in several times in the Netherlands. There's this political science professor who wrote a book quoting members of the center left party in the Netherlands, and the quote that made the title of the book is, "We never should have done that," about when they were in a coalition government with the center right. The PS party under Hollande, doing like centrist to center right politics, also caused that party to collapse. It just keeps happening every single time a center left party either does a coalition with the center right or just like does neoliberal politics. It always ends up hurting them in the long run, way more than them being in power in the short term. So it just seems like it's exactly the reason why the NFP refused any kind of negotiation or compromise with Macron's party, and the reason why they're shut out of government right now is because they specifically wanted to avoid that. But the result is now the far right has veto, essentially kind of a tacit veto power over the current French government, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, no, this is not. It's hard to to find a hopeful angle to this. Starfrost in chat is bringing up a good point, which again, like, I don't know what's the solution to this, which is the problem is the voters, not the party itself. Like, how do you were mentioning it's going to take a lot of time to bring people away from being that fascistic, and it's like, but how do you? It's one thing to talk about de-radicalizing individual like neo-Nazis and trying to go into those actual neo-Nazi circles to like try to claw away individual people and get them to see the error in their ways. But how do you do that at the level of an entire population, basically?
I think you kind of like go back into the idea of building out your social organizations. You know, you become part of the community again. You have people physically out there. You're organizing people. You're just doing like the really bare bones works of political organizing. It's not like amazing or cool, but I think, you know, building back up the trade unions to have high membership again, then you're securing like vote building back up all these organizations, making sure like every single town and village has like a youth structure. And even if this is only bringing in like 1, 10, 100 votes, it starts collectively moving over an entire country. And then you assume the other political parties are doing this as well. So like the Democratic ones at least. So you start pulling people away little by little. Also the other reality is like young people are becoming voters and old people are dying. So you have a bit of a churn happening all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that's what I would say
and
is it sounds really dirty to say, it sounds really glib, but the reality is like, well, the older voters are going to die out. Usually right now the conservative voters tend to be older voters, but the problem is what we're
the
seeing
far
with
right
younger
vote is very
generations.
young in Austria.
Yeah, what we're seeing with a big chunk of younger generations, especially with the way things are turning on Twitter right now and other social networks, is like maybe your generation, my generation, slightly younger than us, are maybe the furthest left leaning generation there has been in a while. Um, but the Zoomers and younger are, are like we're starting to see that pendulum swing back and see more and more younger fascists and completely changing the face of those parties and those movements
Yeah.
rather. So yeah,
Yeah.
if like the idea of, well, it's fine because the Nazis are going to die out anyway, doesn't seem to be it in itself a solution on its own for sure.
Yeah. Nazis make more Nazis. It's a problem.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I mean, and it's
Um,
also like I'm very glad that I'm not a teenager in this period, like with a fully developed kind of manosphere influencers world. It seems very dangerous, I think, for anyone growing up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very there's gonna be so many studies on this and so many like case studies of the combination of kind of everyone being isolated, like playing stuff online, where most of the social networks online are very gender segregated. So people like playing video games are almost exclusively playing video games with the dudes, with the bros. Um, we're seeing a collapse in the number of younger people having sex and having relationships, and that's an issue. Like that's something that is going to bring them towards the incel movements, the manosphere movements, the red pill movements, and all of those. And those are again like massively radicalizing things, other than just in the way that they relate to women, because it's also in the way that they relate to gender roles in society, and to like that is another one of those many pipelines straight to fascism and straight to Nazi ideologies. So yeah, no, for sure there are so many mechanisms by which that is happening. So it's not too surprising to see that pendulum swing back in that direction for the younger generations today. And the other thing is just how much um like a few weeks ago someone was pointing out how much the landscape has changed in terms of the rhetoric in Ireland in recent months alone, since Elon Musk took over Twitter, and since like disinformation and just like being an open Nazi has become something that is almost incentivized on Twitter. I'm wondering if you've noticed that having an impact on Austria, or was the die already cast before that happened?
I don't know, like the Twitter thing is really hard to quantify. I haven't seen anyone do like a heavy duty like what any quantifiable like vote shifting, but I mean you're on Twitter and I'm on Twitter and it's a fucking Nazi place, man. It's
Yeah,
it's super
it's a
weird
Nazi
and
website
very
now.
like the stuff Elon's posting now is it's shocking, I would say some days. And it's a lot. It's a lot of race science stuff. It's like it's way worse than it was a couple of months ago.
Mm. Yeah,
Um
it's I still like I'm like trying to open the eyes of like people around me to this, and pointing out like, hey, this is him retweeting a Nazi, and this is him. Like I could say I could give like 50 examples of him retweeting a Nazi, or kind of doing the just asking questions with a Nazi, or going like, oh, this Nazi was,
Interesting.
or the leader of AfD in Thuringia, Björn Höcke, saying, "Hey, I've been indicted for using a Nazi slogan, but not saying it that way. But I've been indicted for my free speech," and Musk going, "Oh, what did you say? Why was it illegal? There's nothing wrong with what you said when it was literally just a Nazi slogan, and that's why he was indicted because he used." One of the very few, very specific Nazi slogans that it was just like, oh, this is a thing that politicians do now. Anyway, yeah, no, it's
Honestly, I'm a bit shocked that none of the major politicians who are running in elections have called him out, I'm honestly a bit shocked that like Kamala hasn't been like, we're gonna pull this motherfucker's government contracts. Like, you can't be a neo-Nazi
I mean,
and have federal contracts.
they have kind of suggested some of those things, but every time they do, it's another like galvanizing thing in the far right because it's like, oh my god, look at this communist dictator move that they want to do. They want to have a ministry of truth and they want to censor free speech and all of that. And it's like you can't win. The only hope that I'm having is what just happened in Brazil, which we'll talk about a little bit later in chat, of Twitter picking this big fight with the Brazilian government, and now apparently they completely backed down, and the Brazilian government was basically like implementing a strong anti-disinformation policy. And maybe some of the ways in which they do it does seem like a little bit concerning, but I'm way more concerned right now with just the ease of spreading disinformation and the damage that it's doing to countries all around the world. So the fact that Twitter backed down and that Musk back down on that is definitely encouraging, but the only thing is like other countries need to grow some balls and do the same thing because
I mean,
otherwise,
I think I'm of the opinion that people should stop using it. Like, specifically institutions when I mean people.
yeah, I would
And
never, I wouldn't even like for individual people, unless you are a journalist or a researcher, like the only reason I use Twitter at this point is to monitor neo-Nazi movements and to monitor neo-Nazi rhetoric and keep up to date with neo-Nazi rhetoric. It has become literally a better source of information on what neo-Nazis are saying than some of the more specific Telegram channels that are like actually run by neo-Nazi movements explicitly. Twitter is a better source of information than those like kind of further down the rabbit holes organizations. So it's pretty freaky.
yeah. I mean, I also hope that the commission actually launches action against it, because it is breaching a lot of laws already with like the lack of moderation, which is like against the Digital Services Act and a whole bunch of other shit. Apart also like just breaking all the anti-Nazi laws in all the EU states. I mean, it's really ridiculous when you start thinking about it.
Mm. Pastime is asking a question, but I think we already addressed it. Can you ask him why the Greens fell off so badly? We already mentioned being in a coalition with conservatives hurt their credibility a lot. Is there anything else to that question that you haven't brought up?
No, the coalition was constantly battling itself. The Greens ended up spending most of the coalition investigating because they had the Justice Ministry, the UVP, and yeah, the Green vote was very high because people were optimistic it could do things and lead. I mean, that whole election had a progressive shift, right? So people were very hopeful it could get things done, and then they watched them sit in the coalition with the conservatives and have to deal with that. So yeah, all the shine wore off, and unfortunately, it'll take a little while for them to gain some credibility back.
Mm-hmm. Very last thing. We mentioned the Russia angle, and a few weeks ago there was a big scandal or a big leak of documents that seemed to be quite a bit centered around Austria again. Did that have an impact on the election?
I would say no, unfortunately. I thought it might do something, but it really didn't move anything. I think the floods that happened kind of wiped out all the news cycle for a bit, and then it more or less reset, and then the conversation just became around like the election itself and like the horse race. So unfortunately, I would say like things that should have actually mattered, I would say, didn't actually matter. And eventually, I think what is very frustrating for me is the floods and the response to the floods was not even an election issue at the end of the day, because you had the FPU come in first. They don't believe in climate change, and they basically were vacant during the entire flooding process. And then you have like the UVP who also has climate change denial and blocked a bunch of the actual big things that would have stopped the flooding from happening in the first place. So it's yeah, it's a mess.
Okay. Well, thank you for the bummer. Thank you
Sorry.
for everyone was having an amazing week, and you just came in here and messed it up for everyone. So thanks for that, man. Do you have
Yeah,
anything to add,
a little bit of rain.
and do you want to plug your channel, your TikTok, your whatever you want to talk about?
Yeah, so you can follow me at Rota Rota Media or Rota Rota Video on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you could please follow me on YouTube, I really need to hit 1,000 so I can get monetized on here. But I'm much bigger on TikTok. That's what all the famous people say. Um, and thanks for chatting again. It's always a good and interesting experience. And actually, I'd be very curious to when we find out the breakdown of kind of like the age demographics, it might be useful to have a conversation on that and compare like France and Netherlands and Austria and like what the fuck is going on,
Mm-hmm.
because that'll be a big deal.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in. That was. I'm really glad you came in because my understanding and knowledge of Austrian politics is uh, very, very, very surface level. So that was incredibly helpful. And we'll definitely be following up with you soon. So have a good evening, and yeah, talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Well, there you have it. I don't even know what. Uh, that's gonna take a while to process. Did I wait? Let me triple check that I didn't miss any no-nos. I don't think so. No, all good. Cool. Well, that's a lot. Yeah, that's yeah, I mean, it is a seismic shift in European politics past time, but it's also exactly what we've known has been happening for a while. Oh, Roto Roto just posted his the link to his YouTube, so yeah, follow that, click on it, subscribe. His his shorts are incredibly helpful and incredibly well explained, as you just saw from that interview. So yeah, definitely a recommendation from me. The effects of this cannot be understated. Yeah, yeah. I want to like it's hard not to just fall into the this is just more of the same, but it's more of the same in such a dramatic way that yeah, like and anyone who wasn't already at the you know top level alarm, this is an emergency situation, mayday, mayday. Anyone who wasn't already there, we need to be there, because if you think this is just Austria or this is just this one election, and this isn't going to happen in your country, that wherever you live right now, this is a worldwide shift towards fascism in ways that yeah, this is going to empower Le Pen. The only thing that I would see, I mean, it's so my thesis with Italy is that the reason why Italy has been relatively moderate despite, yes, exactly, five alarm fire would be a way to put it. The reason in my reading of why Italy has been relatively moderate under a party that has direct ties to fascists and that has actual fascists in it and actual fascists in the government as ministers, is that they're trying to show a moderate face of fascism so that moderate voters in other countries go, oh, the far right is in power in Italy and they're not so bad, so I can vote for my countries far right, and they're close to Italy. They're close to the Brothers of Italy, so they're going to be basically the same thing. That's what I'm concerned with Italy being like presenting a an acceptable face to the entire far right movement in Europe. So the only way that I can see maybe FPO's victory having a negative effect is if they do the other, is if it goes in the other direction. If people wake up from the FPO's victory and go, okay, we do need to vote left wing. But yeah, that seems naive to think that that would actually happen in a significant enough way to have to shift elections. If anything, right now it's just the trend is going in a specific direction, and we need to wake up to it and actually start to yeah. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say in terms of like prepare for it. Well, like how the fuck do we prepare for this? I don't want to be a doomer. Because there's literally nothing to be gained from just going like, oh well, the far right is gonna win, and that's what's gonna happen. So we do need to keep on voting and keep on doing things to try to change the direction. Part of the reason why I was tired of doing traditional media is because I think traditional media is fundamentally unequipped to deal with these things. So I wanted to try to kind of approach the news in a different way that was a little bit less pretending to be neutral and pretending to be 50-50 on everything. And every time I see a news outlet present things as if these parties are just normal everyday parties, when the Economist starts to publish articles about how just talking about Meloni's management of the Italian economy as if it's a normal thing, I just want to rip my hair out, because it's just like, no, that's not. We're just back again at repeating exactly all the mistakes that we did of the past, of normalizing everything that's happening. It's similar to sane washing Trump. It's exactly sane washing. If anything, it's Trump is so ridiculous. Trump is such a caricature, and Trump is so transparently stupid. He's either that dumb, or when I used to like point out like just how incredibly dumb he is, people would go, no, but he's not actually that dumb. He's just playing up the character to appeal to the base, which, first of all, wow. Like, first of all, that says a lot. And secondly, I just don't think, if anything, I don't think it matters whether he's dumb or whether he's playing an idiot on TV. Because the fact is, Trump is so insane every single time he says something. It's so insane that the way some media companies are sane washing him, and like they'll quote something that he said that was completely nonsensical and then translate that into English and go, what he seems to have been saying is. And the thing is, doing that with far right parties that are led by competent, intelligent, evil people, but intelligent people, is a lot easier. And the dogma among journalists that I am very critical of taking yourself out of it completely, and not getting like being completely unpartisan and apolitical, and just doing this side says this and that side says that, and taking everyone at face value in those kinds of ways, is just the sane washing of the far right is part of the media dogma of neutrality, in a way that I think I'm seeing a lot of media companies realize how damaging that is. But the big ones, the BBC types and the Economist types, and that is one thing. like BBC Economist. Politico is like more conservative leaning, but then you had CNN for a while that was taken over by a guy who was like, "Hey, we're gonna fire a bunch of our left-leaning news anchors, and we're going to make a specific effort to platform right-wing voices." And that ended up being a disaster for their ratings because they are not going to take that segment of the market from Fox News and from One American News and from I forget the name of the third one that there's One American News, Fox News, and Newsmax. Like they're not going to take far right voters from those markets, so they eventually gave up. But yeah, you have those. You have like the centrist apolitical who are pretending like everything is normal, and then you have the massively funded far right media of, you know, specifically like the Fox News, One American News, Newsmax that I was talking about. In the U.S., you have the entire Murdoch empire, including Fox News, but a bunch of others all over the English speaking world. You have Politico. You have Political is Axel Springer. Axel Springer. You have the Bolloré Empire in France that has Canal Plus, that has Europe One, that has C News. It just yeah, that's what we're up against, and it's a lot. It's really a lot. Iliak, I think you're being incredibly, I don't want to say naive. I just want to like the whole fig leaf that the far right is doing with the you know, the right wing people will disagree with you, but they'll defend your right to say things. The only people who are saying things um that should fall under any kind of free speech laws, any kind of hate speech, are the far right. And you also have people like well, I mean, to be fair, yes, you also have a massive rise in anti-Semitism on in the pro-Palestine movement, and I'm not going to deny that. But the thing is, like, those things also help the far right. Like it's kind of like every single time there's a terrorist attack happens by an Islamist group or movement or whatever, that is massively played up by right-wing media, no matter how small it is, no matter how rare it is always played up by the right because it helps them. So the whole, you know, defend your right to say, you know, I disagree with what you're saying, but I'll defend your right to say it. That kind of stuff helps the far right because that way they get to say whatever insane shit they want to say, and whatever stuff is going to scare other people into supporting fascists, it all is also going to help them. So the idea that that's a good thing is, I don't know if you were saying that was a good thing, but yeah, it's insane. Yeah, let's have Tryon on for a little bit. Open the call.
Hold up. First of all, sound check.
Yep, you're coming out fine on my end.
Okay, give me exactly 10 seconds.
Sure.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, both or neither of the chat, that curtain. I was gonna do a funny, hello, I am no longer a disembodied voice in the ether. I now have a face and a lot of hair to come with it. Let me just show up on stream to see if I can fit myself into the camera. I can. Hello. This is what your regular Mad Bulgarian looks like. I wanted to be funny, and then Iliak decided to get on my nerves in chat. Iliak, why are you like that, good sir? Who hurt you? What? I want to highlight this message from a bit above. Where is it? I'm gonna ignore the COVID denial. Just. Oh yeah, you asked, dear Europe, where are your centrists? I'ma help you. People with beliefs like yours bullied our centuries into coalitioning with the right wingers, and now we have a lot of right wingers. That's where they are. They all got eaten up by the far right. I should be looking into the camera. And now we have to deal with the literal fascists. Fun stuff. And based on your background, you should probably be more concerned about fascists than me. Because the Bulgarian fascists are not on a mission to kill me. They don't have a problem with me. I have a problem with them, unrelated. You are concerned and maybe do not support their talking points. Leftists might be annoying online where you say something dumb, or even sometimes not even that dumb, and somebody screeches up the wazoo and goes, "Nah, you can't say this." They're not gonna kill you for that. But the Bulgarian fascists are trying to pass laws where even if you mention the existence of the spooky, scary gender, the phrasing was non-traditional genders. If you bothered to explain what a non-traditional gender is to me, I'll pick up a book and learn about it. But you can go to jail for that now. Good stuff.
Yeah, speaking of that, the whole gender propaganda laws that are popping up in a bunch of countries, I think this kind of started in Russia a few, what was it, like 10, 15 years ago. I'm not sure if they're the ones to actually have started that in the recent version of that, but they were the big high profile ones. There was the Pussy Riot protest around it and all of that.
Right. That's
Recently,
what I was gonna bring up.
Yeah, recently the Putin announced that they were going to pass a similar law about promoting child-free ideology. So anyone openly saying that they don't want children is also going to be illegal now. Is also going to be against.
No, I'm sorry. There is a lot of detail you're missing there. Russia has a major issue. I on the previous stream for shits and giggles, I showed you the demographic chart of Bulgaria, which looks like this, and like it's fine. We're now in the like period of this exercise, so actually birth rates are going up here. We might be able to pull out of this. I don't know, but for Russia, it's like this. It's going down. The only country that has worse demographic than Russia are Korea, China, and Japan, as far as I know. China, because insane laws. Just what was wrong with you with the one-child policy? Korea and Japan is just because they did capitalism to the maximum and like nobody had money, time, or desire to have children. But for Russia, the problem is much simpler. Where the money? When you turn your entire country with a gas station with rockets, that's a quote by a Bulgarian prime minister, by the way. People don't want to live in disaster land. And why would you make children in disaster land?
I mean,
So
it's
now,
kind of like just look at everyone who was watching The Walking Dead and going, "Why the fuck are they having a child in that situation?" Or or A Quiet Place, similar question, like, "Why the fuck would you have a kid there?" And then you go, "Well, that's what a lot of people are asking themselves right now, you know." And between climate change and again, like a revival of fascism and a bunch of other issues, and like just late capitalism being at its worst at the moment, and what we're seeing in Japan, what we're seeing in Korea, is not surprising.
I'm gonna explain this like this. At current times, and sort of subtle flex here, by Bulgarian standards, I'm doing very well. I got an apartment in 28, which nowadays is almost unheard of. I have a very stable job that pays very well, and I have to have this conversation with my girlfriend. We've been together for 5 years. 20, 30 years ago, you are married and have children by now if you're us. It's insane if you're not. And we're talking about like, do we want to have children? We're like, nah, give it like 3 to 5 more years and maybe we'll think about it then. It's just shit's fucked. It's just shit's fucked. I am not comfortable raising a child in this. Even if I put all my effort into raising a child, I don't know what world I'm living that child in. And now imagine a country that has it way worse.
Careful, this conversation is going to be censored on Russian YouTube, just so you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna talk about this. One day, if certain plans pan out, I'll have a very funny story for this channel. But let's say that the Russian government probably have a vague idea of who I am and do not like me. Apart from the fact that I have now mentioned that I think people can have or not have children to their discretion.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, the
yeah,
problem in Russia is that they are desperately running out of people to fund anything, to have anything running. They have to pay massive amounts of money to their pensioners, or the country will collapse. And so Putin there is this like fantastic video that the Russian foreign ministry like released of Putin traveling to Yakutsk. For those of you who don't know, Yakutsk is in bumfuck nowhere in Siberia, and congratulating the people there for having like a high birth rate, which was 1.79. And the video ends with like, travel to Yakutsk and you can have children. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go to freeze to death to have children in Russia on my
um,
to-do
I,
list.
I just want to point out a question here. We've already
Uh-huh.
done a significant chunk of a stream from a few weeks ago, but Pastime is asking, can you ask Tryon about the chaos of Bulgarian politics?
It's party time. Uh, it was 2 days ago the 50th National Assembly of Bulgaria got disassembled, and I sent in chat what is a Renaissance painting of a bunch of politicians hugging the podium and not knowing what to talk about. It is the Turkish Minority Party has split in two, into the more corrupt and less corrupt contingent, because you can't have it other way. The
I'll leave you
Kleptocrats.
with chat on this question while I go
Uh,
make myself another coffee. I'll be
okay,
right back.
fantastic, sure. The Kleptocrats are seeming likely to win the next election, but they're barely scraping 25%. The Libs and the Nazis are neck and neck for a 15%. And there is like now a ton of parties that are like not going to get into parliament. But in Bulgaria, if you get like 1% of the vote, you get a subsidy. If you get 3%, you get a subsidy, and you need 4 to get in. So now, like, all these small insanity parties have popped out of nowhere, trying to get a subsidy to just like grift that shit. Because gotta get them tax dollars. That's about it. We'll know more in a month. Until then, there's no point in talking about it. What's Camelia Vespa doing with the leadership race, etc? Nobody knows. Vespa are in a full-blown civil war. It's not full-blown. They're not fighting in the streets, but it is kind of. So Bessepe had this split earlier last year when there was a mayoral election in Sofia, where the actual socialist within Bessepe wanted to run on a socialist platform, and they're the younger members, people who got into the party in the attempt of, hey, we're actually leftists, we want to do something about it. Because plot twist, the Socialist Party in Bulgaria is just a conservative party with a red coloring. And this happened, Cornelia Ninova, the former leader, well, current leader, well, maybe leader of SPA, sort of didn't throw them out, but like undercut them in the last moment when the mayoral runoff ended up with the BSP candidate and the Liberals candidate, and one of them was going to be the mayor of Sofia, which is give or take the third most powerful person in the country. And that's the moment where like the establishment of the Socialist Party pushed all their bullshit pro-Russia, not even pro-Russia because they're pro-Russia but pro-European. They're the Schizo Party. Pushed all their insanity in to like try to be like, we want a one-party government. And obviously they lost that election because Sofia is the biggest city in the country and is very liberal leaning. And it's like, and now the party is going and who knows? They might split. They don't have enough votes to split up. We don't know who's gonna be in charge. It's probably going to be Cornelia Ninova again, but there is two spin-off leftist parties. None of them really worth the explanation. Imagine German BSW, except more insane and less popular. So yeah. Ilek, pro-Russian or pro-European, imagine a party that doesn't want Bulgaria to leave the EU, but would really like Russia to join the EU, and also would be really happy if the EU starts having Russian parliament type, Russian type laws. That's the answer to what the Bulgarian Socialist Party want. Alternatively, they'll be really happy if everybody forgets that they're commies. And I don't mean communist, I mean like back when this country was a communist country type commies.
Like the kind of USSR style communists.
Oh, Rota, you protested her in Bulgaria? Well, if you want to come for another protest in Bulgaria, I'll pay you ticket just to like, there's no reason to protest her now. She's nowhere near power, but feel free to come. But I would like to introduce you to a word to end the Bulgaria situation. There is a lovely word in Bulgarian, kawaboak. I'll put it in chat in Cyrillic. It doesn't uh, translate to anything, but it roughly means a gigantic, constantly rotating mess of every horrible thing you can imagine. So, so yeah, that's the Bulgarian situation. It's a kawaboak. Don't worry about it. We'll know more in a month. I'll bully Stan into putting me on stream with election results, and like I'll get a flashing light or something here.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out.
you'll bully me with another stream donation.
Yeah, in a week, because I'm out of donation budget for this month. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I was supposed to go to a month ago I talked to Rote and I was supposed to organize a trip to Vienna to cover the election, and I couldn't afford to in the end. So hey, donate to the channel if you want me to be able to do that. Not you specifically, the chat. I'm speaking to chat because you just said that you're out of budget. So yeah. Anyway, we mentioned Elon Musk and Brazil during the conversation with Rota. Do you wanna give us an update on what happened there exactly?
Okay, let's do Elon Musk first, because it has been a very funny week and a terrible week for every horrible person you can think of in the US, and even more terrible for their wives. Although being the wife of a conservative is probably a bad experience anyway, I've been told. So, let's do Comrade Elon first. Because as we discovered recently in the past, he calls himself a socialist, right? Shooting. We all believe him. So, last we left off this story, the Brazilian government, and as we established, the law that they're using to deal with Musk is a bit draconian. But just like you, I would much rather protest the government passing that law than protest fascists. Because in only one of those scenarios, there is a chance of bullets flying my way. And I believe that's quite the relevant point. But yes, last we left this off, Brazil banned Twitter. I believe the day after we spoke, the Brazilian government on Monday ordered all their internet providers to shut down access to Twitter. The Brazilian providers shut down access to X.com. They did not shut down access to Twitter. Which is really funny, because if Elon Musk had any brains, Twitter.com would actually work, but what Twitter.com does right now is it redirects you to X.com and nothing else. So this man could just have avoided a ban if he could be bothered to run a social network normally.
But if he had just reverted
it would
to
have been
using
banned
Twitter
a day later.
in Brazil, they would have just banned it like 5 minutes
A day
later.
later, yes, but it would have been funny.
It would have been funny.
At least for a second, he could have actually pretended to have won something. But the man is that level of incompetent. Except one internet provider in Brazil does not ban Twitter. It's Starlink. Starlink doesn't ban Twitter. Because Elon Musk is anything but intelligent at this point. And the Brazilian government obviously sends a follow the law letter to Starlink and goes, ban Twitter. We told you it's the law in Brazil. Do it. Elon Musk comes with the brilliant legal defensive. Oh, Starlink is actually headquartered in Dallas. It doesn't have to follow Brazilian laws. So Brazil just fines Starlink $2 million and threatens to shut down all their operations within Brazil. I don't know how Elon thinks that works, but his default answer to any adversarial information towards him is to do nothing until he has to. It's a bit like those people who get sick and then only go to the hospital when they have to be dragged into an ambulance. Is his approach to this situation, so he does nothing. And a week later, the Brazilian government says you have 24 hours to comply or we will freeze any asset that is related to Starlink, to Twitter, to any company owned or operated by Elon Musk. That includes Tesla, that includes other shit. And they're like, just shut it down or we are freezing the money. And I think this is the point at which something clicked in his head that he's not winning this one. Because A, Starlink banned Twitter, and B, 48 hours later, Twitter complied with just about everything, banning all the accounts the Brazilian government listed to be banned, providing all the information the Brazilian government asked for. The only thing they didn't do is provide a full list of employees. As we spoke about before, you have to have like a set number of employees. But they did hire a legal representative. Apparently they got fleeced for that one. Rumor has it that they had to overpay big time for a legal firm to be the legal representative of Twitter in Brazil.
If you haven't noticed already, we're blessed to have the presence of Olivia in chat.
Yay!
Despite
I feel
everyone,
blessed.
the most obvious, like the downfall of Elon Musk, or at least of the illusion of Elon Musk's intellect in the last few years, is something that is painfully obvious for anyone with a brain to see. And yet we have messages like Olivia in chat saying, Elon Musk is the world's richest man. He is a genius.
Elon Musk has not been the world's richest man for 3 months now because Tesla stock took a dive.
Yeah,
because for a while it looked like that he was going to leverage Twitter against Tesla.
Even if he was still the world's richest man, the idea that is one, proof that he's a genius, and enough enough of a counterpoint to like literally everything that he's been putting out to try to convince the world of how much of a dumbass he is something to like the way in which Elon Musk has the amount of effort that he's put into proving to the world that meritocracy is not a thing is something for the history books, to be honest.
That is a sentence.
If anything, it might be performance art. Like it might be. Maybe a few years from now, he's gonna take off the mask and go, wow, like you idiots actually fell, like you idiots actually, people, like he's gonna be talking to people like Olivia going, wow, you actually followed me through that. That is insane. Like one day, Trump is gonna start he's gonna do like a Kaiser Soze transformation where he's gonna stop speaking like an idiot, and he's gonna go, whoa, dude, seriously? People voted for me when I was acting like that? Are you kidding me now? And Musk is gonna do the same thing.
If that happens, I'm gonna donate my apartment to this channel because, frankly speaking, that's how much I think this is possible. No, it's bad. Rumor has it that at the moment someone's writing a Teo book about how there is like a good reason to believe that Elon Musk like got tricked practically by himself to buy Twitter. The second that book comes out, I'm buying it. I don't care if I have to swim to the US to like pry it out of those hands, but I need a copy. I want to know how this happened. Also, there was something else I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, also since people were claiming that Elon Musk is like so smart, one of his investors that gave him money to buy Twitter was P. Diddy. And if you've been following what's going on with P. Diddy over the last 2 weeks, you're sure that motherfucker has brains? Those are his friends and investors. I'm gonna give it to you right now. I am definitely not one of the smartest men in the world. I'm kinda dumb most of the time. None of my friends are getting arrested for what P. Diddy's getting arrested for. I would have known.
Yeah, it is funny because every time something like that comes out, the right is like, oh my god,
I didn't know him, not friends, never met him.
Look at all of these celebrities hanging out with P. Diddy. It's like, well, you know that he was also, like, there's also photos of him hanging out with Trump. You know there's also photos of Trump hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. You know there's also photos of Trump hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, it's just I mean, it's the typical, you know, every accusation is a confession.
It's
but yeah, it just the pretending like this is not something that also makes them look bad is constantly funny, to be honest.
It is quite fascinating. Anyway, let's go back to Twitter and Brazil. After Twitter finally complies with everything, Starlink pays a $2 million fine to the Brazilian government, and Twitter starts working again. You would think Elon Musk would collect the brain cell, the errant brain cell he's been chasing for whatever amount of time it takes him to be the smartest man in the world. And three things happen on the same day. First things first, Starlink starts building their things in Texas. They've been building it for a while. They announced they started building them. And you would think, why are you suddenly announcing this? The reason is that they knew that a lawsuit was coming. The lawsuit is by Cards Against Humanity.
Wait,
Look.
give me a sec.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We killed Stan Chat. He is just dead. Nope, he survived. Well, that's rather unfortunate. Aha. I am judging you. Cards Against Humanity is actually quite the bad board game.
It's fun.
If you're with the right people and kind of drink.
Agreed.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
no,
there's way
it
better
needs. It
options.
definitely is a drinking game for sure.
Yeah. But turns out a couple years ago, Cards Against Humanity. If you don't know, the people who make Cards Against Humanity are kind of trolls. They're fun, but they're trolls. So they ran a campaign where they sold copies of Cards Against Humanity. They used the profits from that to buy a gigantic plot of land right next to the border, and then hired eminent domain lawyers to make sure this land can never be taken for the wall to be built. For the non-Americans, eminent domain is the law that America uses to seize your land if they need it for government purposes.
I just want to reacting to Olivia in chat saying neo-Nazis are not prevalent on Twitter. That is we're past the point of trolling.
Eggs.com.
We are actually past the point of trolling now. Like we're going through exactly the same thing that I was talking about earlier of me realizing that I need to stop being so charitable and assume people are good faith. If you think neo-Nazis are not prevalent on Twitter, you either are not on Twitter, like you have mistakenly been using Snapchat thinking you are actually on Twitter, or you are just an insane liar. Those are the only two options.
Nah, Yak is right. According to Olivia, water isn't actually wet.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's just like, okay, at this point we can just I wish we could just like you know how you can rename people in chats in some apps? Like I can give someone a nickname. I would like to nickname Olivia just Nazi Troll in chat and make that appear as her nickname and as her display name in the chat on screen, because at this point, yes, okay, Olivia is a Nazi troll. We can all accept that.
I mean,
if it wasn't already clear before, now it is.
It took you long enough. Anyhow. Not anyhow. You know what, Olivia, question in chat, what are you doing here? Like, do you have nothing to do on a Sunday that you just pop up in here and like, I will now have a line of cocaine and say the most insane thing that pops into my head?
I mean, and Olivia saying I'm against all forms of Nazism. I'm also Jewish. It's
I find that not believable.
The thing that one of the first times that I noticed Olivia in chat was when she was saying, "Oh, I love Jake Shields, and I don't remember what the name of the other neo-Nazi she was stating support for," and then saying, "Oh, but I'm against Nazis."
I am very happy to not know what a Jake Shields is.
Jake Shields is a Nazi. He's an MMA fighter who retweets Nazis every day, and when he's not retweeting actual photos of Hitler, he's retweeting people JQing and doing Holocaust denial, and like the guy is the most explicit Nazi you can be without having a swastika tattooed on your forehead.
Before we went on the Cards Against Humanity tangent, which is related to Starlink, there is an investigation in the EU Commission on whether Twitter might get like gigafined going on right now. I'm
Yeah,
not.
th-
I'm
that
pretty
was
sure it
actually
was announced, but like people
going
have
back
been
to
in
the
the know for a month now since the Trump interview.
going back to the Twitter conversation. You mentioned the fine against Starlink.
Yeah,
Do they still have to pay that even though they backed
they
out?
already paid it.
They already paid it. So
The legal representatives who got hired finally by Twitter instantly paid it.
so Elon Musk picked a fight with Twitter.
With Brazil.
Got
He also did.
with Brazil. Got banned in Brazil. Used Starlink to continue to give people access to Twitter through Starlink.
Out of sheer spite, by the way, Starlink only provides internet in Brazil in like the depths of the Amazon.
Yeah, and
Nobody in the depths of the Amazon is on Twitter.
the only thing that came out of that, the only benefit to Musk, has been that he had to pay an extra. How much was the fine? You said?
2 million US dollars.
I mean, that's I guess that's pissing in the ocean for him, but still.
No, it isn't. There is reasons to believe that Elon Musk is liquid for about 80 million. All of the rest of his money are theoretical.
Yeah, fair.
Which is, he's not the only one, but apart from like Bill Gates and Jeffrey Bezos, when somebody tells you they're giga fucking rich, and like because they own stocks, do not trust it. As far as I know, there's like 5 to 10 people who've been able to actually liquidate this. In the other time, these are like very theoretical money, and money are already theoretical. So like we're going several tangents from reality to money in the pockets of these people. And the fact that they get to do this shit and be this influential and annoying, while doubtful that they're this rich, is dodgy as hell. But I am not going to address the problem with fiat currencies and why money not being real creates issues down the line, because money only works as long as we all believe that they do. So anyhow, it turns out Starlink was just dumping a bunch of their construction material on the land that Cards Against Humanity own, and their defense for this is like, oh, we thought it's government land, which I don't even know how that's better. At least in Bulgaria, if you go do some bullshit on government land, you're about to eat a fine up the ass. But I think Starlink assumed that just because they're in America, they'll get away with it. So now Cards Against Humanity is suing Starlink for 150 million. Oh, no, I think it was 15 million. Wait 1 second. Oh, the amount hasn't been announced. Okay, my bad. I misremembered something. But there is a final funny update. Oh, there's a cat. There is a final funny update to come out of this, which is on the day the lawsuit was announced. Elon Musk said that if Kamala Harris wins the election, she will make the lawsuit end up being in Cards Against Humanity's favor. Which, as we all know, the President of the United States is the supreme judge on any lawsuit they pick. That's how they work. Ignore ignore any evidence to the contrary. And said that this would be the end of SpaceX and SpaceX's ability to explore Mars, and thus the end of humanity.
I think if Kamala Harris wins the election, the Democrats will be writing laws with Cards Against Humanity. They will be using Cards Against
Yes, of
Humanity
course.
to write laws. That's what they're going to do.
That might be an improvement on the US Democrats, though. I mean,
For anyone who plays Cards Against Humanity, you'll know why that would be an extremely. We live in the dumbest timeline, and we live in.
no, we do.
This is that would be a very idiocracy level thing to do, which is why it's so likely to happen.
I'm sorry. I just like we are riffing on a rather funny joke here, because like, to be honest, I'm here to try to uplift the stream after the, let's call it, the Austria situation, and Ilya could not miss. Like, this man tread the needle, and from 400 meters saw one opportunity to be racist and did not miss it. Straight to the point. On a joke of Cards Against Humanity, man says it wouldn't surprise me considering the squad. Really, you managed to name 4 women of color in the US Parliament and you're blaming them for all of this. Couldn't be the decades of lobbying. Could not be the rampant corruption. It's Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and the 3 others I cannot name. Them are the problem, mate. Whew.
I honestly, I kind of wish that Olivia was actually good faith and not just a troll, because I would like to know what kind of radioactive soup had to be poured into someone's ear for their brain to be broken to that level.
This is a fantastic theoretical question, but we might be entering the realm of quantum physics to answer this one.
Like, we know that Olivia's brain is not broken. Olivia is like perfectly rational. They're just trolling. They don't believe a single thing they say when they say I'm against Nazis or any of that. We know that. We don't need to substantiate that even more. It's already been substantiated by Olivia themselves. But I would be very curious if they were actually good faith. What happened? If they were dropped on the head as a child, or I don't know. But it is. Are they currently having a stroke? Have they been having a stroke on stream constantly? Like every time my stream runs, it triggers a stroke in their brain for them to be like just short circuits between what is a Nazi and what isn't. Basically. I don't know.
I cannot remember, but there was a story. Somebody had a medical condition in France. This was last month. And apparently they didn't treat it well, so they were losing brain matter. And like their brain was essentially swelling and destroying itself over a span of 20 years. But the person was like relatively functioning until they weren't. And I'm starting to, Olivia, maybe go to the doctor and get checked. Because if you are in good faith, you should get checked. Because, like, Iliak, you're a bit annoying, brother, but I kind of can understand where you're coming from based on your background. And we know Olivia is a troll. But if for a second Olivia believes the things they're saying, doctor, right now,
yeah,
ambulance, just go.
You know that meme of
health.
Someone got an X-rayed their skull, and we found out that they were missing like 2/3 of their brain or something, but they were still functioning normally.
Yeah, that's the story, the one I told you. I just don't remember the details.
Yeah, that's okay. That would possibly be. I think Olivia might be a medical marvel that they're able to not realize how broken their brain is, basically.
Are we gonna stop bullying the racists now? Nah, they deserve it. You know what, Olivia? You should drink and drive. That's not only medical advice, it is moral advice. Only you, everybody else, under no circumstances get in a car drunk. Olivia, you have written permission by me. When the cops catch you, you can use me as an excuse. Clip this one. I just... Anyway. I mean, to be honest, this is the Elon Musk update. He's about to have a bad time. Yeah, go ahead.
Iliak, someone is saying Iliak is also racist. Iliak is also racist, but at least I can understand, because the position of Iliak is he's Jewish, he's super pro-Israel, and he's racist against anyone, against any Muslim, any Arab, and basically his he will have the worst possible take on anything to do with Middle Eastern politics and anything to do with pro-Palestine, the pro-Palestine movement overhaul. So I can understand the logic of that, even though I disagree with it. Whereas Olivia, it's literally not even logical. It is, I'm against Nazis. Oh, here's a list of all the Nazis that I love. That is the level of brain brokenness of Olivia. Like there's no... I can follow the logic of Iliak. There is no logic to follow in Olivia's posts.
Yeah, also, and like, sorry to be doing the psychoanalysis of Iliak while the man cannot defend himself. By the way, Iliak, if we are wrong, do mention it in chat. But as he said, he was born in Ukraine. And all Eastern European countries were really conservative by modern standards by the end of communism. So if he spent some time there, or his parents did, you would grow up with this notion. Then you move to the U.S. and naturally you would find allies within Republican circles in the U.S. because the early 2000 to like late to 2015, well, until Trump, the Democratic Party in the US was really that new liberal, hey, we're gonna do communism, but you can be gay type of deal. And when you come from like a different culture, this can be very jarring. Like Bulgaria is dealing with that very conflict at the moment, where like the reason the gay rights are getting so attacked is because suddenly you have a generation coming into voting age who are like, yeah, gays exist. Deal with it. Because we grew up on the internet. But the old generation, they grew up with a completely different notion. They cannot give it up. And yeah, and that. And then like, yeah, man's Jewish. Yeah, no, like, look, man, Ilyak, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I get it, but also anti-Semitism was never based on rational belief. So, if your plan is to have the Israeli government kill everybody who might be an anti-Semite, then we're just doing a world conquest Europe Universalis style from Israel. That's the only option you have. I'm gonna tell it to you right now. If you could for a second dissociate from the fact that, yes, as a Jewish person, you probably have more things to be worried about than me. The rhetoric of Israel is like literally I can take Mein Kampf and find the same sentences, just replace Jews with Hezbollah or like Hamas. It's Hezbollah this week. Also, yeah, Trump did say that if he loses the next election, it might have something to do with the Jewish people. Hell of a fucking rhetoric.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up this cartoon that I saw. Let me see if I can put it on screen. Open in a new tab. Yeah, I'll just switch
Wait,
screens for a little
I'm
bit
sorry.
to show
We
this.
need to record the date and time. Olivia had a non-horrible take, Stan. This is... Somebody put this one in
Well,
the
of
history
course. I
books.
mean, she said that she likes Jake Shields. Jake Shields posts about two things. Jake Shields posts about Hitler being a cool guy and having a point and being owed an apology, and Israel is a horrible war crimes committing country and all of that. And this is, I almost want to say this is a clock, broken clock is right twice a day kind of thing, but even in the way that Jake Shields criticizes Israel, he's also an insane Nazi. Is like his justification for hating Israel is anti-Semitism. Like there are completely reasonable ways to criticize Israel, but the way in which Jake Shield does it is not that. So yeah, I just wanted to put this.
I'm going to start a tangent, but I need this question answered by you and chat. Context for the question is Bulgaria used to be a communist country. You talked about how the Nazification didn't work in Germany and Austria. It worked here. It's called the People's Court. It was usually get denazified via the method of firing squad. Genuinely, if you praise Hitler in Bulgaria, you're gonna get these hands. Even the current Nazis in Bulgaria have to straddle a line where they praise the communist and do fascist shit. The notion you would do that is insane to me. Because unless you're 15, you do not get to praise Hitler in this country. Where does this come from? Did you all not open the history book? How is there people going around being like, Hitler was fine? Like, excusez-moi, how the fuck? Excuse like where? One of the most properly documented maniacs in human history.
Yep. Yeah, well, yeah, but I also push back against the idea that Nazis were maniacs, because we also they were, but we also have to remember your neighbor can be a Nazi. Like Nazis are also
Hitler
normal people. Normal
was
people
a
can be
maniac.
maniacs, basically.
Yes, normal people can be Nazis. This is why I get annoyed at Ilya, because the man unwittingly is supporting an ideology that would like him shot.
Mhm.
But like, I do not find it debatable that Hitler was a piece of shit of titanic proportions.
Yeah, I mean, Ilyak isn't.
It's not-
Ilyak is also worried about anti-Semites of other types.
I would hope so.
You won't get me defend Ilyak too much. If I have to choose between Olivia and Iliac, to me those are two very different people.
Those are different diseases.
Like
One
Iliac
is
has been
ignorance, the
also
other one is evil.
criticizing, the AfD and the National Rally and the FPO in all of these things. He's just like, but can't we also agree? Can we just have more parties who agree on the Islamophobia of those parties, and that way we can all vote for the Islamophobic non-fascist people? Is basically Iliac's position, which is kind of an insane take, but I can see how a functioning brain can arrive at that, even if I disagree with it, which is different from the Olivia thing. Anyway,
I guess if you
I mean,
don't want
you
to
can be a
recognize the
functioning
fact
brain
that
and be
blatant
insane and
hatred,
Islamophobic, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
I guess. Well, okay.
you can. Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, I did want to show this on screen for a second because I thought it was very on point. Political cartoon saying, "Is it genocide or is it self-defense? Let's make everyone happy and say it's both. In that case, we'll need a new terminology. I propose genocidal self-defense. That should give both sides something to work with." And I think this is pretty much on point. Genocidal self-defense is exactly what is happening, and I think we should normalize this term because, yes, all of the genocidal apologia that is happening in pro-Israel circles is entirely consistent with this term right here. Anyway, it would be very
Iliac's
funny to have
statement
just like
in
to
chat-
to normalize the term genocidal self-defense and see Israelis' brains like explode everything. Like if the term genocidal self-defense was brought up on like a Piers Morgan debate or something like that, that would be a very funny moment to see the pro-Israel reaction to that.
we just completely lost track? 'Cause, oh my god, why would you remind me Piers Morgan exists? This is worse to me than the Austria update. At least I'm getting used to Nazis being around. Piers Morgan's just Well, I'm sorry if you know. Like, there is this joke in men's like when you have male friends, you eventually run into the everlasting joke, which is the biggest animal you can beat. And a friend of mine just said Piers Morgan. That's the biggest animal you can beat in a fight. Unfortunately, that got answered by someone saying Steven Seagal, which might just be the case. Anyhow, Iliac, on your point about Japan, I just want to point out that the amount of explosives dropped on Gaza is 11 to 15 times, big boy. Israel has 11 to 15 times dropped the amount of explosive that we dropped on Hiroshima. We, the Americans. I wasn't personally dropping anything.
And more than the bombing of Dresden as well, I think.
The bombing of Dresden is so overblown and out of context that I'm bored hearing about it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not even interested. You do not get to have a military factory, have that factory get bombed and the railway get bombed and be like, we be genocided. Huh? Did you surrender? You did? That was the point of the bombing. And I know I'm now feeding Iliac's argument, but I would say Nazi Germany was a bit scarier than Hamas. Off the top of my head. Also, this stream is definitely getting demonetized.
Oh yeah,
just
100%.
off the last three topics.
I had a stream. You got my stream age gated last time we talked about Bulgarian politics. The news segment.
Really? Oh, because of the
assassination attempt.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's
not your fault. Hey, you warned me, and I didn't think they would do it because it's a publicly available YouTube video that isn't age gated, and just watching that video got my stream age gated for some reason.
Fun thing, kids in Bulgaria absolutely know about this and meme on this so much. I mean, I was 12 when it happened. I was memeing on this. That's how fake this assassination attempt was. Nobody took it seriously. Not a living soul. That I know. I should have said that.
So staying on the topic of Nazis, do you want to talk about the Black Nazi?
Mark Robinson.
Oh, wait, let me check something. Olivia, what do you think of Mark Robinson?
Wait, you have to give them a second to Google him. You know, yeah, they have to figure out who this is before they make the most abhorrent take.
Also, Olivia, what do you think of Candace Owens?
You're just on a mission to remind me horrible people exist today, right? Like, what is this? Is Candace Owens doing anything these days?
The Holocaust
she-
denial and
she-
Hitler apologia.
See my previous questions about this. Ah, you would vote for Mark Robinson over them. Okay. Do you want me to now enlighten the chat on who the fuck Mark Robinson is?
So yeah, we'll get into who Mark Robinson is in a second, but just for context, let me see. Boom. Let me just get a big fat headline on screen. Do we not have the screen
The
cap?
greatest intellectual politics from New Africa. Indeed. Indeed.
There we go. Okay, let me just put this on screen for a second. Olivia, I'm against Nazis. Would vote for this guy over Democrats, but she's definitely against Nazis. Of course, you know, believe her when she says she's against Nazis, but also she would vote for this guy.
I am even. How do you? Okay, let's address this person because his existence is fascinating. So this man, first of all, can
Hey,
we
you
just
also have a
appreciate?
cat.
I have. Is he in frame? Hi, darkness. Do you want to be on stream? I don't know. I don't know how good the shot is. Let's put this. This is huggable. This man wants hug all the time. Except only hugs in the way he appreciates. If I try to hug him when he's not in a huggy mood, I get scratched.
I can't hear you
Otherwise-
too well anymore.
Cat attacked microphone. I'm sorry.
Perfect.
Is it better now? I was saying that this man loves hugs and scratches, except when he doesn't, and then I get scratched. But yeah. Hi, we're talking about a different black person. Does this count as a black person? Let's not delve into that one. Let's start with appreciating the fact that we live in a day and age when no, don't take the microphone. That if you want to visit the hub, you can do that in the privacy of your own home, because it appears that Mark Robinson spent the early 2000s going to a particular shop that sells pornographic material, then visiting a booth at the back, and doing whatever one is doing in that scenario. And then being extremely friendly with the people who operate the shop. Unless when it came to politics, as it appears this man had horrible views back then, and I think it was, I don't remember but US, would you happen to know which publication posted this? But people interviewed those people. I don't
the whole are you asking me who broke the entire story or who broke that specific part of the story?
That specific part that was about him going to a porn shop.
I've roughly followed the overall controversy. I don't know all the details.
Well, so this in the beginning was just a funny story. This is how it starts with the guy who was operating the pornographic store saying, "Hey, yeah, Mark Robinson was here all the time. He even English. He even watched some porn that involved trans characters." This would be relevant because at that time Mark Robinson was going on a massive tirade about hating trans people, as is the way of the day, it appears. How dare trans people exist?
Apparently, he also says that he jacks off to trans people, to trans porn.
Yes,
So
apparently
he
he
hates
does.
trans people, but he's also. I think there might be some therapist might want to look into this, basically.
A lot of therapists. A friendly reminder that by education, I am a child psychologist, and I am still in a lot of groups where I talk with people who work this. And like, I am in a particular group where like younger psychologists talk about this. This guy was the topic of a week. For a week, people are trying to understand what is going on in this man's head, because wow, the dissonance, the mental dissonance occurring there on a daily basis. Yes, he had frequently jacked off to trans porn, which, if nothing else, is a valid reason why you should support the existence of trans people off the top of my head. And then it appears Mark Robinson discovers the internet, and
Yeah,
specifically a site called Nude Africa.
I'm going
Yeah.
to assume that Iliac is well, Iliac's year of birth is in his name. 1986, I'm assuming, is his year of birth. So he's not that young. You know that the internet didn't always exist, and that porn used to be something that people would get, would not get for free, basically.
I am so happy I was a child back then. Oh boy, I have done some weird shit on the internet none of you would ever find even a trace of. I know how to hide my shit. Unlike Iliac, who I can currently Iliac, by the way, please hide your stuff because you've annoyed me a couple of times, so I did some opposition research on you. I know what level you are on your current Path of Exile League. You might want to cover that. Also, this is a warning to Olivia, by the way. just so you know. Also, Stan, you should hide those pictures from Flickr, by the way.
Yeah, we didn't specify for the Mark Robinson story that
Yeah.
a lot of the stories that came out are from, what, the 90s or something?
Early 2000s.
Okay.
That's where this begins. I don't know what age he's at the time. I didn't check his exact age. But it was like 1999 to 2005 was the period specified where he was visiting the physical location. And then I assume he acquired a cable and an internet connection because then the days of Nude Africa begin. And I don't know who the fuck you are that you go to a porn website and you drop political beliefs on him. Also, his genuine nickname on that time was Black Nazi.
No, it was Tiny Soldier or something like that. It wasn't.
It was Tiny Soldier.
He said,
Because
"I'm a
the
black
man
Nazi,"
has a-
though.
Yeah, the man has a collection of soldier figurines, by the way. Not Warhammer. Somebody apparently makes high quality soldier figurines for like US Army veterans and stuff, and this guy collects them. I am just not gonna ask what he does with those. I see we're having a full-on cat stream. These are the cats. We're just vessels for the cats.
Literally, no one is listening to what we're saying. They're just watching the
Yeah.
cats right now.
Your cats is like not as visible in frame, I think. Maybe it's yeah. Yeah, this is the full-on. This is the cat horror show stream. Political cat horror. That should have been the title of the stream.
Hey, this could work as a concept. Just like talk about politics while cats are on stream, like to get people to pay attention. Kind of like jangling keys in front of the camera or something.
I pitched this to you to do it on the shorts. Hey, chat. Opinion time for chat. Everybody in chat, would you be willing to send short clips of your cats to Stan? So next time he's making a short about something, it can just be a cat. Or
That's
have the
actually a
bottom
good
screen
idea.
be
Like,
a cat, full on TikTok style.
if I have to do like a really, really dark TikTok, like update on really fucked up story, I can be like, also, but here's a cat.
Well, I would watch that. So yeah, you're right. Tiny Soldier was his name on Nude African, where people found comments of his on straight up gay porn, just like full on gay porn, no questions, no trans people, just like the guest of gay porn on Nude Africa. So you can gather further details from this, where he would admit to jacking off to this and then spew hate about the actors in the porno. And the joke was the guy has like hateful post-nut clarity, but I don't even know where to begin with like what is wrong, because I can excuse the jacking off. I assume most people do it, and I would assume every politician I know has at some point participated in this exercise. I highly doubt I'll be able to find anyone who would then comment on this or spew political opinions on a forum.
Yeah, interesting point here. Yako is pointing out, didn't Alex Jones also get caught watching trans porn? I didn't know about Alex Jones, but I know that
Ted Cruz.
What's the name of the America First guy?
Nick Fuentes?
Nick Fuentes got
Nick
caught
Fuentes is
with
gay.
open transporn tabs open on his screen while he was streaming.
No, Nick Fuentes is just gay. He has admitted to it in the past on multiple occasions.
Is he like, does he say it in those words, or is it kind of
Yeah.
oh, I've experimented with this and that, and yeah.
No, he has just said, I want to fuck man. Is like,
Mhm.
I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember, but like, he got caught with like chat logs of him saying that, some leaked on his own stream.
Yeah, of course, there's nothing wrong with being gay, of course, but there is
It's
something
just
wrong with
really
being
weird.
gay and homophobic at the same time. That
That's
is the
thing.
part that's weird and kind of again, psychologists should look into this kind of thing.
Also, do you know who Milo Yiannopoulos is? Because it's my turn to remind you horrible people exist.
Okay.
Last
yeah,
week,
you're getting your revenge
Milo
on me, aren't you?
Yiannopoulos last week challenged Nick Fuentes to a baby off.
Oh, I saw that. Like the first of us to have a child wins or something like
In
that.
5 years, and like the rules were like, you can't be, it has to be consensual, and you have to find a woman that wants to have your child. And then he said like the guys who deliver legal things, like when the court things to deliver it to Nick Fuentes, and it's just a video of that guy walking around in front of Nick Fuentes' house. And I'm sitting here like, first of all, great objectifying of women there. Points, just absolute points on the objectification. Impressive work. What are you trying to prove? Apart from the fact that none of you has or will ever interact with a woman in a consensual and enjoyable way. Yeah, idiots.
Yeah.
Because
Rarish's point is making a good point. You were mentioning that every politician has jacked off. Rarish is saying, I don't think Corbyn has ever jerked off, from what his ex used to say. I read something about how
I don't know anything about this.
Corbyn's partner would want him to take her out on a date, and the one time that he did, it was like some political event or something. Apparently, literally nothing goes on in that guy's brains that isn't politics.
Don't be that. Like, I have a genuinely positive opinion of Jeremy Corbyn. No, this is too much, man. Not like this. Oh, he apparently took her to a Karl Marx monument.
Very romantic.
Yes, peak romance. Oh, sorry, can I have a tangent? Something really funny happened to me recently. I was cleaning the basement of the new apartment I bought. I found all 3 tomes of the Bulgarian Communist's personal diaries and the book of Karl Marx in that basement. So, chat, I'm auctioning them off. If you want to have first person to donate 20 euros to Stan receives Bulgarian communist propaganda. Just don't know what to do with them. Anyway, where were we? I am Mark Robinson. So, he obviously denied that this was him on a nude Africa being horrible. I don't remember all the horribleness, but yes, he said multiple times he's a Nazi, gay people shouldn't exist, trans people should die, while jerking off to all the porn of them because mental dissociation, books, Freud, all that shit. And then he denied it was him. And this is where it gets funny. See, reporters, when they want to do their job, are really good at it, I've noticed. See, when Stan decides to point out how the AFD relates to the Nazi Party, he pulls it off. And when people find an account related to Mark Robinson on Nude Africa, they tracked it down. It is his IP address. It is from his location. It is his style of writing. Literally, some of his speeches are same phrasing as those comments.
And
It's
there was
1000% him.
The email address linked to that account was his email was
Yes.
also one that he used on other things. Like it's
Yeah.
undeniable that it's him.
Yes. So, his entire campaign staff quit. Just all of them. 3 people are left. We don't know who, but 3 people are left. And I cannot remember his name now. This was very funny. There is 2 particular grifters in American politics who, during the Trump campaign, were like coming out with claims that Hillary has secret gay sex or something. Would you happen to know who they are? Jack Berkman. Something Berkman, Jack.
Yeah, I don't know about that one specifically. I just know that now it's a common thing. Like there's the whole Candace Owens has the whole Michelle Obama is trans. She also thinks Macron's wife is trans. Like there's a lot of these weird conspiracy theories
That's
about those. It's
that's
like
what you're going
it's
to accuse
basically
Macron's
QAnon
wife?
adjacent stuff.
I've sent you on Discord the Wikipedia page for the guy.
Yeah, wait, let
But
me
this guy, yeah.
open that because the thing is, like, we are talking on Discord right now, so it makes it not easy to. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
this guy. I
fair
don't know
enough.
who this guy is.
This guy is the giggest of giga grifters in American politics. He would take whatever bullshit claim the Republican Party has this week, then like crank it up to like 15, and like make a press statement where he pays an actor to sign an affidavit, like a legal statement, although not really, claiming that they know about this. And in the beginning, people were buying it, and then people were just not buying it because it would be a new accusation each week. This guy tweeted, "I am now officially running Mark Robinson's campaign." Well, he wasn't. He's just completely unrelated with the campaign. And apparently he did that because him and his frequent acquaintance, frequent co-conspirator, I should say. What's this guy's name? I can't be bothered to Google it. He has a frequent co-conspirator. They've made a fake AI company that fake summarizes like legal briefings. You know, when there is a committee or something in US Congress, that thing summarizes it. They make a fake company that does it with AI, except it's literally 5 guys summarizing it and sending it to lobbyists. And apparently lobbyists were paying for that. But because they're so notorious, they started them under fake names and now they're getting sued.
Didn't isn't that how a lot of AI companies run at the moment? I think Amazon
no.
had the whole AI run store where you just pick stuff up
Actual
and you walk out.
Indians. Okay.
And my
okay.
cat is gone. And they claimed that it was like AI operated, but it turned out it was just a bunch of Indian people in call centers who were watching surveillance footage to figure out which products people walked out with.
Yes. Okay, let's do a bit of IT humor. An API is the way different apps communicate with each other, websites and stuff. The joke in the IT sphere is that that means actual people in India. AI just means actual Indians nowadays. No, it's not as bad as like you would think. It isn't every AI company has 50 Indians on typewriters. But essentially, every time they're training their algorithm, these quotations were not on screen. Let me see if these ones were. They just either steal a bunch of material from somewhere and run it through a server, or just like see a thing, decide we need to train our AI in this, go pay a call center in India like 3 pennies on the dollar, and have like a bunch of Indians write the thing, which is why AI is this is a particular problem with AI today, because they both run out of content and run out of way to summarize it. If you start like there was really a brief moment where you could find different AIs making spelling mistakes. Because when you have a bunch of Indians whose first language is not English, that's just going to happen. It's just
AI being actual Indians is a great quote. I'm definitely gonna use that one again.
I mean that's been a joke for a year. I'm not like I'm sorry.
I mean, it's there's something called in like there's a historical precedent to this, which is the Mechanical Turk. There used to be
Yes. A guy in a chair.
one of the first claims of, look, I made a robot. I think it was a chess robot.
It did play chess, yes.
There was a machine that played chess, and the inventor was like, oh yeah, it's gonna beat people at playing chess. Play the thing, and it's gonna beat you. And it turned out there was just a chess master inside the machine who was like, curled up in a ball, R2D2 style, operating the machine to make the chess moves, and that's the Mechanical Turk, and that's exactly what Amazon was doing with that store. Anyway, we're getting way off topic of Mark Robinson.
No, to be honest, this is about him. There haven't been any major updates since, because his campaign is genuinely seriously faltering now, because all his terror bonus came out. So much so that people think North Carolina might be a swing state now, because nobody's gonna vote for him for governor. Well, apart from the hardcores. But like they lost whatever notion of a center there is there. now. We don't know if that's gonna happen. Like election day is gonna show. Oh my god, it's coming up fast. What days? Pepe, can you please move?
It's
Thank you.
November 4th, if I'm
Do,
not
do you
mistaken.
still want to be
Still?
on camera?
US election
By the way,
day,
everybody in
November...
chat, bully Stan to do
November
a big
5th.
stream on US election day.
I'll definitely
So we
stream
can
on
all
US
lose
election. Are
our
you kidding me? Of course I'm
minds
gonna stream on
together.
US election day.
Because last election, I watched that shit through gritted teeth until 6 a.m. my time. I want other people to lose their minds with me.
Yeah, no, of course I'm gonna stream. It's a Tuesday. Yeah, I'm gonna stream on US election day for sure.
I don't even know why Americans have... I actually do know why Americans have elections on a Tuesday, but anyhow. It's so you can travel after going to church, by the way, is the reason. Because that country has... Dear Americans, update your laws.
So there was a third story that you wanted to...
I wanted to talk about Eric Adams. Eric Adams is the mayor of New York,
Okay.
as of right now. Likely not to
yeah.
be by the end of this week.
I just remembered that story. That was another whole...
I have so much notes. This is the story I have 3 pages of notes for, because that's how insane this man is. For those in the know, Eric Adams has been a really funny person to know about for quite a while. So, can we begin? Long story short, he's the mayor of New York, and he's been indicted on claims of corruption. Except the evening before the indictment got announced and he got arraigned, he made a video saying, "I am being prosecuted. This is all fake news. Ignore it."
Do you know what this reminds me of?
What?
This reminds me of I don't know if people remember this, but a few months ago, before Elon Musk bought Twitter, he suddenly out of nowhere went, "Oh, by the way, guys, I'm a Republican now, and if anything bad comes out about me, it's because people are trying to take me down for being a Republican."
Yeah, do not bribe people with horses.
And a few hours after he said that, an article was published of him sexually assaulting someone on his private jet and trying to silence her by offering to buy her a horse. And it turns out that he had been asked to comment on the story before it was published, and that's when he ran to Twitter saying, "I'm a Republican. If anything comes out about me, it's because I just announced that I'm a Republican." Which is just the weirdest way to do to damage control something before it appears online. I guess Eric Adams was doing something similar, which is he knows the indictment is coming, and before the indictment gets announced, he gets to go, "They're coming after me. You'll see, they're coming after me."
So it's even funnier because he does this video where he's like in the mayor's house doing it officially, and the next day goes to do a press conference. You would think he would get asked about this at the press conference. He wasn't asked anything at the press conference because there was a bunch of protesters with megaphones behind the press conference heckling the loving fuck out of him. Dear New Yorkers, that's the spirit. That's how you do it. Go wild. Just heckle this man. So he is indicted on massive corruption with Turkey. The country of Turkey, not any random Turkey. Apparently, a bunch of Turkish people were bribing him for a single building. This is happening because of a single 38-story skyscraper. That's it. So,
yeah,
let's see.
Yeah, full context. So there was a building. Was it the embassy or the?
No, it's a consulate. The embassy is in DC.
That was apparently not respecting some building regulations. And they were going to have it to be like either they were going to have to do a bunch of stuff to modify the building, or they wouldn't be able to operate. And Eric Adams stepped in to help them out. And,
long story short,
that's when the corruption really kicked off, basically.
So apparently corruption was going on before he was elected. But the particular story is Recep Erdogan wanted to go to that building on a specific... Recep Erdogan is the president of Turkey. He wanted to be there for a specific day to open this on a specific Turkish holiday. Because apparently there is a decent number of Turkish people living in New York. Which further explains the rivalry between Chicago and New York, because there's a bunch of Bulgarians living in Chicago. We shall go to war again. Anyway, no, just a joke. So, what he did was... genuinely not. He took a bunch of secret donations from Turkish businessmen by having a bunch of Turkish people living in New York make small donations. Then, whenever they are back in Turkey, get refunded by the millionaires or the rich businessmen. And because this was done in a way to like assist his campaign, the city of New York was actually doubling those donations. So this is charge number one: fraudulently making donations. Second thing, he got a bunch of free tickets on Turkish Airlines.
That's the Jesus.
They got him on that.
The matching donations thing is maybe the more overtly
It's
corrupt thing. It's like
definitely more
literally
insidious.
taking foreign money for your campaign. But the one about the airline tickets is actually the funniest one, because there was a period of time where he was being booked on this like first class tickets plus luxury hotel, something that should have
Sorry,
cost
back on the camera.
something that should have cost like tens of thousands of dollars. And
Say hi.
his staff member, a different cat.
Different cat which tagged the camera, so I don't know if I'm in frame now. Let me
move your frame so we see the cat well. So yeah, his staff was dealing with the airline to like, you know, process the booking and all of that. And the staff was like, okay, how much are you going to charge us for this? And the airline was like, $200.
$50. No, it's 50. The test message leaked out. They were
Was
like,
it 50?
Yeah,
Okay.
$50.
And literally the response of the staff member was, please do something that at least appears to be legitimate. And that's when they're like, okay, we'll charge you like 2,000 or something like that. But like just the level of corruption when even the staff is like, no, make this kind of look real, basically, is
No. Cat has detected the box I'm using to keep my camera there and wants to sleep on top of it, but keeps moving my camera. Please.
It's okay. We'll
cat.
allow
Okay.
it.
We'll see. If the cat gets cozy, I'll just move the camera after. I don't know how I look on stream right now.
But yeah, no,
but
the
yeah.
level of the I think maybe the matching funds thing, where the small donors and all of that.
They're charging him with wire fraud specifically for that.
Yeah, I think that is maybe the
public-
worst thing in
Public
terms
funds
of
misappropriation.
the just like I'm trying to like, you know, give myself what do you call it, like a hierarchy of all the bad things he did in my head. And that one, even though it was probably less money than what he got through the Turkish Airlines corruption, was still maybe worse in terms of like directly having foreign funding of your campaign. But the Turkish Airlines stuff is just insanely cartoonish. How
I have details on how cartoonish it is.
Yeah, just how stupid it was. Apparently, when his wife wanted to go to Chile, he was like,
he didn't know he had a layover in Istanbul.
he was like, does Turkish Airlines fly us to Chile?
No, not only that, anytime he would fly anywhere, he would have a layover in Istanbul and then go to the Four Seasons in Istanbul, which is literally the most expensive hotel there. Like,
On the house, of course.
On the house. And the best bit is he expensed a flight on Turkish Airlines to Istanbul to appear in a TV soap opera. Like, this is hard to explain for people who've never interacted with Turkish TV. But in the US, you guys have soap operas, which is like the Spanish TV things, where it's like a new episode every day, and it's like the lowest quality telly, and it's just like, Ernesto, I love you, no, but I have 7 twins. It's this type of shit. He appeared in one of those. He doesn't speak Turkish. And he just says some insane line and then goes off camera. And he expenses that. And then they turn this into an ad for a phone in Turkey. I don't know what this man is on. Sorry, what else do we have? Oh yeah, it gets better. Apparently the FBI and Homeland Security requested his phone to check for the messages in question.
And he forgot his password.
At which point, no, he changed his password, and the next day claimed he forgot the new password.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a government-issued phone, and the government knew the previous password. Cinema. That's the spirit. That is... Also, blatantly deleted and instructed people to delete a bunch of evidence. But the phone thing, cinema. Good job, Eric. I can't even. This man was on the next level. Again, all of this for a skyscraper. And in the end, all they did was essentially open the skyscraper before it got its fire security checks. And apparently the land on it which was built wasn't appropriately bought from the people. Essentially, the mayor put his thumb on the scale so the Turkish people can get it cheaper. That's it. All of this for that. I'm sorry, Eric Adams, come to Bulgaria, we'll teach you how to do corruption. Homie, that's like, no, no.
Yeah.
This rookie shit.
When I first saw the
This is
news,
absolute rookie shit.
when I first saw the news of the Eric Adams indictment, I just saw like Eric Adams indicted for being an undisclosed foreign agent. And there's a lot of ways you can get in trouble for that, and I imagine that there are situations that are like relatively innocent where it gets that bad. Where you can get charged for it, like where you can accidentally find yourself in a situation where you got foreign funds and you didn't really realize. I didn't realize how insane the Eric Adams situation was until I read more about it, and it's like, whoa, this is what is the most innocent version of this situation? Like the scenarios I was having in my head of like, maybe it's not that bad. Like, no, it's so much worse than I possibly thought.
It is blatantly bad. Also, this is yet a speculation, but likely he was bribed by Venezuelans at some point. And it appears that the way he was bribed is he got a free exorcism of the mayor's house.
Moon rabbits, don't leave. We're here.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it. I made a collection of the funniest shit Eric Adams has done in his time in office. Could I please quickly read it out, and then I'm gonna drop off if that's fine.
Yep, sure. That sounds good.
Okay, here's a short list of insanities this man has done. Made a PSA video as a part of his mayoral campaign where he showed all the places your child could be hiding guns or drugs in your house, including guns in the pillow, bullets in a jewelry box. Who the fuck has a jewelry box nowadays? Drugs in a water bottle and a crack pipe, because it always has to be a crack pipe. And my favorite one, he pretended to find weed in a baby doll. I want you to find me the Venn diagram overlap between people who own baby dolls and weed.
Wasn't there? Okay, I'm gonna be charitable
Mark
to that because I've
Robinson. Mark
heard of
Robinson is the
situations
Venn diagram.
of drug being smuggled in baby dolls and stuff like that.
No, not smuggled. Everybody in chat, please go find the PSA video of Eric Adams explaining to parents where children could be hiding drugs.
Children.
And watch it
okay.
after the stream and have a laugh and how this person has not met a teenager in 20 years. Okay, anyway. Second funniest thing he did. He paid McKinsey Consulting, the biggest business consulting company on the planet, 40 million to find a way to deal with the rats, and they invented trash cans. They just invented trash cans with wheels.
Yeah, and they you said 40 million was the budget for that?
That's the number I was able to find. It might have been more, I'll be honest with you. He hates rats, by the way, to such an extent that one time he drowned one rat in vinegar.
Wait, say that again?
He drowned the rat in vinegar.
For what? What was the...
To show how much he hates rats.
Okay.
He was mayor at the time. It was a demonstration of a rat trap where he just got a rat in a normal rat trap and then dunked the entire thing in vinegar.
That's a normal thing to do.
That is a perfectly normal thing to do, yes. Nothing weird here. The biggest crime he has committed in the eyes of every New York, he definitely lives in New Jersey. He just lives in New Jersey. He got questioned on this during his campaign, and he showed an apartment he lives in New York. Not only was that definitely his son's apartment, because it was decorated as you would expect the apartment of a 30-year-old to be decorated, he clearly didn't know where he was in the apartment. Further funniest thing, reporters camped outside of this apartment for 2 weeks to see if he'll go there. He went there twice, and one time parked illegally. This man's amazing. And finally, insisted that the mayoral office is haunted, and likely got a bribe by the Venezuelans to send a priest to do an exorcism in the office. New Yorkers, I appreciate you for introducing this man to the world of politics. He's the perfect clown.
I mean,
Also,
it
never
is-
let him close to elected office ever again.
It is kind of like so here's the thing is people I'm almost going to lean it's not like QAnon level stuff, but it kind of if people have a tendency to believe QAnon stuff, this is gonna
Sorry, I'm being
comfort
delivered
them into that
cats.
thinking, which is you don't realize how weird celebrities are. Like, so many celebrities are basically have led incredibly sheltered lives. They've never interacted with normal people in their lives. Whether it's like Hollywood people or politicians, they're disconnected from the normal world. And every time you see a celebrity acting in like a relatable way, it's almost always rehearsed. And so when something like this comes out and you see just like how comically incompetent these people are, or comically like
mental. The word you're looking for
like
is mental.
when JD Vance goes to a restaurant, orders food, and you're like, dude, you've never been to a restaurant before. You do not know how to interact with normal people.
Sorry, can I address JD Vance for a second?
If you want.
JD Vance is literally the worst tendencies of a person who spent their entire life interacting with people in the IT industry, combined with the worst tendency of a person who's too rich to know what life is.
Yeah.
If you remember that clip of Tucker Carlson going to the fucking Konsumolka in Russia, which is literally the most expensive shop you can find, and being surprised you can like use a penny to like unlock the card, clearly never been to a supermarket before. Imagine that mixed with the most awkward IT person you can imagine, and then be like, ha, Vice President, Lamau. No, sorry, you're not fit for office by default. That's JD Vance.
Yeah,
fuck
I mean
JD Vance.
it's just like yeah, well, I mean whether it's politicians or
Also,
celebrities,
JD
like all
Vance
of
is not
them,
his real
so
name.
many of them like never went to normal schools. It's like the how few interactions people have had with just like regular normal people is especially like the people that we spend most of our time watching, like in series and movies and whatever, and we we grow up watching certain shows and we don't even realize that the people we're watching are basically aliens. Like they have more in common with aliens than they do with normal human beings. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Nah.
Anyway,
I
so
hope
yeah,
I was
no,
the
this been
Eric
like
Adams things was entertaining because this man is. Oh, sorry. Can I recommend something? Like I'm gonna advertise a different channel. Hope you don't
sure,
mind.
go ahead.
People in the chat, there is a channel called Internet Today. They genuinely collect stories from the weirdest American politicians and the weird shit.
Wait,
If you wanna have a laugh at the expense of the American politics, feel free to search them out. I've been watching their stuff for over 10 years now, and I haven't regretted it. They're genuinely great. Anyway,
yeah, I'll look into that. Internet Today.
I'll send the link to it in the Discord after. But yeah,
Okay, that sounds
that's
good.
it.
I'll have a look.
They're usually the way I pick up on stories and then like research them to bother Stan to show up here and be like, "Hey, someone did a funny."
Good to know. Yeah, the good to know as a source. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been a
Yeah.
crazy few days. Like only in the last few days, Ilyak was pointing out that we haven't even talked about the fact that Nasrallah was killed by Israel.
I'm gonna leave you to that because if I have to bring up what's going on in Lebanon, I'm going to start a fist fight with Ilyak. So
Yeah.
I would leave it to the professionals.
I think-
all I'm gonna say, search out the story how they put the bombs in those pages. That one's damn funny.
Oh yeah, we went over that last stream already. Yeah.
No, you didn't go to the details with
Oh,
the
we
secret
didn't go to the
company
details,
in
but
the
yeah.
Budapest and all of that. But I can't be asked right now.
But like the
So-
whole logistics stuff is
Yeah.
quite something. For
This
sure.
will be my graceful exit now stream. Have a good one.
Yep. Have a good one.
See you next time. There's something insane to talk about.
Yeah. Very soon, I'm sure. And there we have it for now. Yeah, the jokes of that one person who within Hezbollah who was like, "Hey guys, I got a really good deal on a lot of pagers," is probably being looked at very suspiciously. Anyway, I mean, Ilyak, either he got scammed or was in on it, but yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty densely packed 3 hours of stream. Trying to look at what we can do next. The thing with the death of Nasrallah. Okay, let's maybe talk about that for a little bit. So, the longtime leader of Hezbollah was killed in a massive bombing of Hezbollah's headquarters in Beirut. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really care that much about Nasrallah himself. Last week a few days ago, we were talking about specifically the impact of the pager attack and just generally the escalation of the war, and that is something I am concerned about because it's something that's going to affect a lot of regular Lebanese people and I have a lot of friends in Lebanon actually. And so there are very genuine reasons to be concerned overall about kind of the Pandora's box that was opened by the pager attack and about the escalating war that is affecting now the entire region of the Middle East. In addition to just the what did we say? Genocidal self-defense in Gaza that is also creeping, like that is also has spilled over into the West Bank, and we'll have to see just the level of aggression that takes place between Israel and Lebanon as well, because Israel is apparently preparing for an invasion of Lebanon, according to military leaders and according to some of the troop movements that we're seeing in Israel. But when it comes to the specific fight between Israel and Hezbollah, I don't really care. Like, if we're talking about like IDF versus Hezbollah and those are two fighting forces, that's fine for me. The problem is when it affects other people. Like, the problem that I had with October 7th was the non-IDF, non-fighters that were killed in pretty brutal ways during that attack. The problem that I have with what's happening in Gaza is not that Hamas is getting killed, is all the other people outside of Hamas who are getting killed. So the specific list of, these are the Hamas leaders that Israel managed to take out, or these are the Hezbollah leaders that Israel managed to take out, or these are the like IDF soldiers who were killed. Yeah, that is the part where you can say that is just war. That is what happens in war. Soldiers are going to die. Leaders are going to die. That is completely normal, and that is the normal state of affairs of any kind of military conflict. So that's why I don't really care that much about it. I think Hezbollah has done a lot of stuff that they don't deserve a particular amount of love, but it is absolutely valid to be concerned about the real non-combatant lives that are going to be that are already affected by what is happening in Lebanon, and that the literally tens of thousands of people who have been killed in Gaza who weren't members of Hamas, and the 2 million people whose lives have been completely destroyed and upended since October 7th in Gaza as well. Hezbollah is a Shia Islamist terror group. I mean, yeah, Hezbollah is So if we're gonna go into the details of specific actions, just looking at, for example, the stuff that was filmed on October 7th by Hamas fighters, you can absolutely come out of that saying, yeah, Hamas is worse than Hezbollah, because Hezbollah uses mostly like conventional warfare methods. I'm saying this with low confidence because I haven't read enough about Hezbollah's operations, but it's mostly like rockets that they're firing, it's snipers, it's stuff like that. But the ideology of Hezbollah is very much we are 100%, like, we will continue fighting Israel until we are no longer bordering a Jewish state, which, you can argue about the legitimacy of Israel as a state and all of that, but that the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of logic does very rarely tracks into the real world, is what I'm saying. And there's like Islamists as well. They're funded by the Islamist government of Iran, the supreme leader of Iran. They're like the fact that they're against Israel, even if you disagree with Israeli politicians and the Israeli government and the long-standing policy of Israel when it comes to Palestine, does not mean that you have to all of a sudden support every single person who is fighting Israel, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. So going, oh my God, no, they killed Nasrallah. Nasrallah was very much a piece of shit. The leaders of Hamas who were killed were pieces of shit. And the Iranian funders that are backing both of those movements are pieces of shit as well. Then you can go into like the, what has Israel done to make like or it's more in the case of people who grew up in Gaza under occupation. I guess the more interesting question is like, how can you be surprised that those conditions would breed a movement like Hamas? And that is a completely valid thing. But that doesn't mean that you therefore have to support Hamas because their existence is kind of a direct result of Israeli policies. Stan, you're already losing out Hassan Piker's audience. I'm okay with that. Man, it feels like it's been a much longer stream. It's only 10:30. No, Israel is not an apartheid state, except for every literal. How can I say this? Basically, every human rights expert agrees that Israel is an apartheid state, even if they disagree on the genocide term. The apartheid state is almost indisputable. Even former Mossad leaders agree that Israel is an apartheid state. Israeli human rights organizations agree that Israel is an apartheid state. Whether what's happening in Gaza is a genocide remains to be adjudicated by the ICJ. And I think you can make a strong argument that it is. I think the argument that what they were attempting to do earlier after October 7th was an attempted ethnic cleansing at the very least is maybe a lower bar than saying that it was a genocide, and therefore it's an easier bar to reach. but the bar of apartheid is inarguable and is the consensus of every credible human rights organization in the world. Fabian, you're kind of weird posting in chat now. How are we still having this debate almost a year into the genocide? It's also so obvious and affront. Yeah, no, I do think we need to like normalize. Like, if you want to debate the term genocide, you can, but to dismiss it entirely, you can't. To say, oh, it's obviously not a genocide, is just a bad faith take. I think we just need to normalize the genocidal self-defense as a term, because that is exactly it. Like, they are defending themselves in the wake of October 7th, and it is true. Like, you can absolutely have a reasonable position that October 7th, no matter what, there was no way out of having a military response to October 7th, but their military response to October 7th is genocidal. I don't think Fabian watches Hassan Piker, or at least not in good faith. I mean, maybe my opinion of Hassan's audience is higher than it needs to be, but the Israel is planning on, wait, what was it? Ethnically cleansing Arabs with a virus that will only kill them and not Jews. Nah, that is in fact, that is ban-worthy as far as I'm concerned. I'll give Fabian 30 seconds to maybe clarify that he was joking on that point. But yeah, that is neo-Nazi conspiracy theory level stuff that I do not think. I think there's a lot of garbage in Hassan's audience and in Hassan's chat, but that is not one that I would expect to see there. I think what we're seeing with Fabian here is Poe's law in action. Like, I'm reading everything Fabian is saying in the voice of just obvious trolling, and Iliak is reading everything Fabian is saying, assuming that he actually means it. And this is a perfect example of Poe's law, which is that what's the exact formulation of Poe's law? Poe's law. That without a clear indicator of the author's intent, any parodic or sarcastic expression of extreme views can be mistaken by the readers for a sincere expression of those views. So the reason I'm hesitating to ban Fabian from the chat is that he might be joking, and I might be he might be trying to be a parody of ridiculous views, or he's just a Nazi vague poster. I'm on the fence about what to do for the rest of stream. What was the what was the game that we were looking at a few weeks ago that we almost played a few times? Was this the Westport Independence pin to start? Again, I don't know how long Fabian has been in watching stream, but the I hate Nazis, I'm definitely not one is very reminiscent of a previous chatter who was then listing a bunch of Nazis they liked, so. Stan, have you ever talked about Mélenchon's anti-Semitic rhetoric? I looked for the specific cases of anti-Semitism that he was accused of, and I didn't see anything particularly damning, to be very honest with you. If you have an example that you would like to show me, maybe I didn't find it at the time, but I haven't seen anything other than the criticism of Israel that's been weaponized to claim that he's anti-Semitic. I haven't seen anything specific. It's kind of like when Ilhan Omar said, "Follow the Benjamins," in talking about AIPAC, and people like, "Oh my God, that's Nazi dog whistling. That's an anti-Semitic dog whistling. That's the trope of Jews being rich and corrupting politicians with money or something like that." And I think that's very like has to be purposely distorted. Would it be possible that other things would come to support the idea that Ilhan Omar is anti-Semitic? Maybe, but that specific thing was the only thing that made that post anti-Semitic is the fact that she was talking about AIPAC. But if she had been talking about any other lobbying organization, she would have posted the exact same thing and no one would have batted an eye, basically. Mélenchon criticized Zemmour because of his Jewish heritage or something like that. I mean, the fact that Zemmour is a Nazi and Jewish is kind of weird. Mélenchon, let me see exactly what he said. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. I have an article. Wait, no. Do this. Nah. There we go. Let's over this. So, translate to English for chat. Mélenchon admits that he expressed himself badly after his remarks on the Judaism of Eric Zemmour. Eric Zemmour and Judaism. What did he say exactly? Apologies are rare for Jean-Luc Mélenchon, but here is one. More than 24 hours after his remarks considered anti-Semitic by many of his opponents, the leader of La France Insoumise reacts. He admits that he expressed himself badly on the BFM set Thursday morning. BFM is a news channel. At the very end of the interview, when asked if the polemist, this is a pundit. This is the French word for pundit. I'd never seen it in English. I don't know if it's a commonly used word in English. Eric Zemmour was anti-Semitic. He replied, Mrs. Zemmour must not be anti-Semitic because he reproduces many cultural scenarios. We don't change anything. Okay, that's weird. Wait. Let me switch this back to French. Yeah, I have no idea what he's even saying there. All these traditions are very much linked to Judaism. This has its merits, is that been allowed to survive in history? Yeah, I don't even know what point he's trying to make. I agree this is weird. I've never particularly liked Mélenchon anyway for a lot of other reasons. But I do recognize that this is a very, very weird thing to say. Blatantly anti-Semitic. Yeah, no, I don't like. The thing is, like, could it be anti-Semitic? Absolutely. I don't even know what point he's trying to make. That's why I was like switching it back to French, because I was like, this is like a weird Google Translate error that it doesn't even. The thing is, it doesn't make any more sense in French than it does in English. So I don't even know what point he's trying to make, but it definitely sounds weird. Is 100% what I'll say. Mélenchon supporters quickly came to an aid, denouncing Mélenchon bashing on Twitter. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how you would defend this other than being like, that was a really. Mélenchon basically had a stroke, and he made this is like a series of very unfortunate, unrelated words came out of his mouth in a way that, like, even in his anti-Semitism, were incredibly incoherent, and I still have no idea what he was even trying to say. But yeah, no, weird stuff. I'll grant you that for sure. Yeah, that's another thing. Mélenchon was also okay with nominating a wife beater for the parliamentary elections before the backlash. Not only that, but the person in question was basically Mélenchon's protege inside the party, and remained had a high position in the party despite major protests from the rest of the party, from many politicians within the party, of someone who had been not just accused of beating his wife, but had been found guilty in a court of law. And the Mélenchon's party was still like, oh yeah, doesn't matter, we're still going to promote this person to a position of power. So yeah, that is one of many reasons to be extremely critical of Mélenchon. I am glad Mélenchon isn't officially in the party anymore. Officially, he's retired. I'm annoyed that he still has such a big role in politics, even in his retirement, just because there isn't much of a leadership to a next generation to take over from him. But I think the French left will be better once he stops being involved. Anyway, I'll end chat by feeding the cats, and then I'm gonna call it a night because things are getting pretty quiet at the moment. Jesus. I don't know if Jesus was on the cross, but he apparently was put there by his own people. Um Yeah, weird stuff. He's a wacky guy for sure. I will remove the noise gate on the thing so you hear the very loud meows of the cats. No, to be honest, I kind of assumed what I had seen of the anti-Semitism accusations. I kind of assumed that it was similar to I think Corbyn was mostly just what's the word I'm looking for? Like his name was dragged through the mud over. It was almost entirely just criticism of Israel that was twisted into making him look anti-Semitic and eventually get kicked out of the party or get demoted from party leadership in the UK. And I kind of had believed Mélenchon's the criticism of Mélenchon's of Mélenchon for being anti-Semitic was similar, but you know, I have to admit that the comments that we just read were very much worthy of yeah, but there's a lot of people on the left, Ilyak, who refuse to call Hamas Hezbollah terror groups. The word terror, like the word terrorism is a very politically charged thing, and I am completely fine with using that word to describe Hamas and Hezbollah. But I can see the argument of why you wouldn't, and I don't think it's necessarily anti-Semitic to be careful with that label, is what I would say. I don't think it in the same way that I think you have. Do you have an overlap with Olivia on some issues? I'm sure there are some issues in which you and Olivia have an overlap, but Olivia is a Nazi troll, and you and I have significant disagreements, but I do not think you are a Nazi troll. The fact that you have an overlap with Olivia's positions does not mean that you are ideologically the same as her. Well, Olivia would also say that she lost family to the Nazis, I would assume. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna call that a day. Thanks for joining. This was a bit of a downer of a stream. I've been struggling with finding the energy to do these lately, so the streams have been a little bit shorter and a little bit less regular, but working on that, and hopefully new videos soon. Making progress on it. Slow, but making progress on it. And yeah, I've been considering, because I'm struggling with energy levels, I've been considering maybe taking a break from streaming for like a month so I can focus on the videos that are currently in process, and then I can come back to streaming or something like that. We'll see. If I haven't made more progress in the next week, I'll maybe consider that again. Talk to you guys soon, and yeah, have a good evening, and thanks for watching.